Welcome back to another episode of Macrodosing. It's Macrodosing, the only podcast that you can listen to on the internet. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on YouTube, as long as it doesn't get taken down. I heard that we had kind of the bad boys of the Tuesday morning podcast game over here. We had our last episode pulled off of YouTube. Why? Because it was too sexy, Avery? What was the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were too handsome.
Yeah, too handsome. So, got to save some poontang for Steven Crowder. So they took us down. So we are back. Last week's episode was a banger. I feel confident in saying it was a banger, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It was
what was last week's episode?
Mass hysteria, right?
No, yellow
journalism. Yellow journalism.
We didn't really talk about it.
Yeah, it was yellow journalism. It was a banger though. 2 bangers in a row. It's almost bangers only for the boys here. So yeah, go listen to last week's episode. Is it back up on YouTube or is it?
Yeah, it is.
Are we perma-banned?
Yeah, no, it's back up. I love reading through the comments. You guys are awesome. Someone's like, it's 40 minutes in, and they finally started talking about yellow journalism.
You know what we should do? Like honestly, we should try to get all of our videos kicked off YouTube, so that way we can complain that we're being silenced. That's a really good way to get more views.
Like the Nelk boys, they're just demonetized.
Yeah.
They can post, but they just make no money.
Arian and Coley, what do you guys think? Do you guys have any good strategies for like what we can say or do to get kicked off YouTube, or at least so that we can say that we got kicked off?
I can film myself finding a Nazi and punching him, and then we put that on YouTube, and that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah. They would take that down, instigating violence.
Yeah.
I think if we just put like a 3-second clip of any Olympic game, that'll get us kicked off, but we can say it's for our takes.
Canceled. Yeah, we got canceled. YouTube was out to silence us.
An international organization tore us down. They wanted to stop us from getting the truth out there.
Yep.
Well, you know what came from a lab?
What?
Beyond Meat.
Did it really?
Yeah, they grow it in a lab.
They do?
It's not even meat, yeah.
They grow Beyond Meat?
Yeah, Beyond Meat is created in a lab.
I thought that it was naturally occurring and that it accidentally got, like, somebody tried it for the first time and then they brought it to a market and they're like, hey, eat this Beyond Meat, and then it just spread everywhere.
Big vegan.
What is Beyond Meat? What is it?
Something they put together in a lab. They literally...
It's vegan, like...
No, I know the product, but I'm saying, like, what is it? Like, how is it made? I don't even know.
I'm going to look up the
Dude,
ingredients.
I think they grow it.
Like on a tree?
Yeah. A lot of weird stuff are coming from labs lately.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. They'll ban you off YouTube for saying that.
You're telling me we are in the golden age of labs right now. The golden labs is what they're calling it. It's the cutest age of all time.
Hey, this is the golden age of laboratories.
Yeah. Beyond Meat is actually not bad tasting. I might get canceled just personally by Billy for saying that, but I had the Beyond Meat, the sausage patty at Dunkin' Donuts.
Those are good.
Yeah, it doesn't not taste like sausage. And when you add in cheese and an egg to it and put it in a wrap, it's not bad. It's pretty good actually.
Arian, it's the proteins are pea, mung bean, faba bean, and brown rice, and then their fats that they use are cocoa butter, coconut oil, expeller pressed canola oil, uses pressure and not chemicals. It's like non-GMO. And then it's like beet juice extract for coloring and stuff. So it's like all made from plants. But then there's like weird like extracts and calcium alginate. If someone wants to let me know what that means.
Are we ever going to get to a point where we can just straight up like grow a piece of meat that's not attached to an animal? Like, can we grow a ribeye steak?
I bet they could right now.
They've been doing that. They've been growing like cells in petri dishes to try to create artificial meat so that doesn't have as much like methane production and impact on the environment, but it's basically just like you're eating a tumor.
Yeah, but it's delicious, right?
But it's just like a tumor.
But if it's got all the same ingredients.
Right, but they grow like tumors.
It sounds like they're growing out of stem cells and things like that.
What's this anti-tumor take? Billy?
Yeah, what's wrong with eating tumors? I don't understand.
Well, I don't know. Just like think about it. Like
by your logic, a fetus is a tumor too. Yeah. Oh, Billy just short-circuited.
Put him in a box.
His brain, you could just see the wires get crossed.
But it's like grown in a petri dish, and it's usually like cells that replicate uncontrollably, which is like cancer.
Isn't that what a baby, like, isn't that IVF?
Humans are cancer, so.
Like, honestly, I don't care what you call it. I would eat cancer if it was delicious enough. Yeah, I don't think that you don't get cancer by
But like
eating it, do
the
you?
blobs they grow in the labs, they literally look just like disgusting.
If they look like meat, if you can make me a porterhouse,
It won't look like a steak.
Not
It'll
yet.
look like grizzled fat.
I'd just like you to have an open mind about this because I feel like you would enjoy this development if we could make it happen where we could just straight up grow beef ribs. It would be cheaper.
Billy,
We'd
do you
figure
drink
out the
milk?
tastier.
Huh?
Do you drink milk?
Drink a lot of milk.
I thought you might. Like, milk is fucking gross, bro.
I know.
Like-
yeah.
It's like the nasty. It's probably the weirdest shit we do as humans. Actually, it's like the first nigga to try milk was probably like, yeah, his friend was like, "What are you doing, bro?" Like we literally, I don't know what that was called. Milk. We milk it. What is that called? Is it just milking?
You suck off milk.
Well, mammary
You suck up the
glands.
tea.
You go to a pregnant cow and then you like do that to it. You know, you
Crank its hog.
fondle it. You fondle the teat, and then milk comes and you drink it. That's weird. That's the weirdest shit. in
Well,
the
you
world.
know, mammary glands are really just like weirdly modified sweat glands.
No, I didn't know that.
And then,
that.
so like really milk is just kind of like fucked up sweat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would.
I'm gonna need a fact check on that one. I'm
No,
not
dude,
sure about
I
that.
would. I would absolutely try human milk. I know Big Cat like said that was a weird thing for me to say. I think it's weird that he's never tried human milk. I think that
I've never tried it either.
What about when
I
you're a
got four.
baby?
Yeah, definitely. I had to. I didn't have a choice. That was my source of nutrition.
Right.
I think the story with milk is that like not like some random dude just started sucking on a cow udder or anything. Was that like you would sometimes have babies and the mothers would die, and they were like, "Yo, we need to give this baby milk." And if there was no other like breastfeeding like mothers, like they would just put it on an animal.
I mean, but still, the first person to do that, it's like, bro, what are you doing?
Romulus and Remus.
Like, wouldn't you go to another pregnant mother and be like, yo, can we get the right side?
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Or so-
Dude, it was probably like rare pickings back then. It was probably pre like urban civilization of any sort.
It looks like Billy is kind of right about the mammary glands and sweat glands thing. So a platypus doesn't have nipples, but it just kind of sweats out milk.
I mean, platypuses are the weirdest thing in the world.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
we can't use that as a base for
well,
anything.
it's showing that mammary glands and sweat glands are like linked together somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. Platypuses are also poisonous. They got a spur that's got venom in it, or poison rather, like a barb.
Yeah, platypuses are just one of a kind, just unique animal. I would like to pet a platypus, actually.
Kind of cute.
They look very cute. They look extremely cuddly. But this whole poisonous thing has me rethinking that just a little bit. So I'm told that Big T's got a story for us. I walked into the studio. The first thing that Mad Dog said was Big T has a great story to tell.
It's not a great story. I just mentioned it to Avery before we started recording. It's bullshit is what it is. I'm walking down 7th Avenue to go get lunch today, and there was a gentleman who was walking with one crutch. He had one crutch on his side that was closest to me, and he was kind of hobbling on this crutch, and I'm walking, and I was far enough away that I know for a fact this was intentional. He takes the crutch, totally fine, didn't need it, apparently, by the way, puts it out at a 90-degree angle and whacks my shin with the crutch. And this is my second, what's the word I want to use?
Run in?
Run in with
Encounter.
encounter with a gentleman similar to this one. The other time, it was on February 1st, 2020. I was so mad I remember the date. I was leaving a bar with Jack McCarthy and TJ Hitchings. We were going to a basketball game, and this other guy asked, they're walking ahead of me. He goes, do you have a lighter? Do you have a lighter? And they both keep walking. I'm walking behind him, and he puts his hands on me, like stops me. He goes, I know you have a fucking lighter. And I had to like push this guy off of me, and I was so mad about it. I use that as a reference point for how mad I get now. I'm like, am I as mad as I was on that day? This one didn't quite make me that mad, but I just kind of stood. Another guy behind me watched it happen, and I just kind of turned around and look at this guy, and I'm like, am I about to fight this guy in the middle of 7th Avenue? And then I eventually just kept walking, and I'm still pissed off about it.
Did you say anything to him?
No, he just kept going. Like, I don't know why he had a crutch. He didn't need it. He's just going around hitting people with crutches. I literally have been racking my brain for 2 hours trying to think of what could have prompted him.
Dude, well, you can't beat up someone with a crutch.
That's a good point.
You're just
yeah,
a cripple beater.
Because even if he,
Well, I
even if he
didn't,
doesn't,
obviously.
if he doesn't need the crutch and he just like hits you with it, the fact is he still is. He has a crutch.
Yeah, no,
It looks like
he kept on walking.
It looks like a bad deal if like somebody's across the street and they see Big T just swinging on this dude. with
Yeah,
a
but the guy
crutch.
behind me turned around, and I kind of look at this guy. I'm like, did we both just see the same thing? I wanted to make sure somebody else saw it and they thought it was intentional also. And the guy
my
behind me
God.
we just kind of looked at each other, and he shared my sentiment that was also bullshit. So
Like if you beat up someone who is perfectly able, but they have a crutch, and you beat them to the point where they have a limp, now they just assume he was
Right.
already like that before you doled out the beating. It's a no-win scenario.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, it was that's
it-
what happened to me today.
it's actually a more. I think it's a better self-defense mechanism than carrying like a gun or a knife on you. Just like always roll with a crutch. No one's going to try to fight you. No one's going to try to stab a guy with a crutch. If somebody's like doing a mass shooting out in the street, they're probably going to keep aiming and like see the guy who's on crutches and then be like, that guy's had a tough one. I'll let this guy pass and then go on to the next dude. That's probably the safest
Those rational mass shooters you hear about, yes.
thing. Yeah.
Empathetic.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw there was a guy on 7th Avenue. This was on I think it was last Thursday. I was walking from a hotel back to the office, and I'm walking down the street, and there's this lady who's walking maybe 10, 15 feet in front of me, and we're walking south on 7th Avenue. There's a guy that's walking north, and Arian, I don't know if you remember this from when you were up here visiting, but 7th Avenue it's turned into a pretty bad spot recently. Like a lot of heroin going on in this block. Like people that are like bent over at the waist, falling down, stumbling around places. It's actually gotten pretty sad. But there was this one guy who was very clearly on heroin, and he was stumbling to the side, and you could tell he had that lean going. He had that look in his eyes, and he starts walking directly at the lady that's walking in front of me. And so he's crossing from one side of the sidewalk, making a beeline directly at her, and he's like got his hands out. And in my head, I was like, oh, shit, it's about to be on. He's about to grab this woman. And then, since he's already in an altered state, I can come in and just be the biggest goddamn hero of all time and push this guy over. And he'd fall over like a house of cards. And then I get to be like, yeah, if the news comes, I guess I'll talk to them if they want to know my story. No big deal. But then she pulled like a Darren Sproles move on the guy. And hit him with like the jab step right, cross left, and the guy just kept going across her face until he like stumbled out towards the middle of the street and kept going on his way. But for a second there, I thought to myself like, I kind of wish he had just like reached out and grabbed her shoulder just a little bit so I could have knocked that guy over. That would have been a lot of fun. Does that make me a bad person?
no, you
Little
just
bit.
you just
No, it doesn't.
fantasize about being a hero.
Yeah, I think Arian's right. I think it does make me like a little bit of a bad person.
You wanted an attempted possible kidnapping or rape so you can intervene.
No, I didn't want him to actually do anything. He was
No,
physically
say attempted.
Yeah,
You wanted the
attempted. Yeah,
Yeah.
He was physically incapable of carrying out anything at that point besides walking, and he was even barely doing that. So I did not want her to be in danger. I was just hoping that I could look cool.
I almost saw one actually. So I had a girlfriend back in like 2010, and we was in New York, and we was in Central Park. It was like a night, and there was like this, I don't know, like there's this walkway that kind of wrapped around, and they had walked ahead. It was her and my daughter, and they had walked ahead, and I was kind of like looking at, I was like kind of standing at this like little, I don't know, like little bridge area, and they were walking ahead, and I see this dude, like I see this like a shadowy figure, and he's creeping like towards them, like I could see him, and I was like, oh shit, this is crazy. And so as I start walking up, like, because they weren't that far ahead, so I start walking up, I become in his view, and he turns around and he walks back, and I'm like, yo, I almost really that's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of close calls. So sorry if we sound like jerks, but hey, listen, we're being honest with you guys. It's just the truth. And then also earlier today, Mad Dog, we gave her one job. We gave her one job because she has failed in managing Billy and asking him to bring in eggs.
No, Billy's
Farm
just
fresh
failed
eggs.
at bringing in the eggs.
That
Dude,
sounds like bad management
I
on
live
your part.
so far from eggs right now.
It's honestly like, how far from eggs do you think you live?
Well, the OG eggs.
Your eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just buy some like factory farmed eggs.
So wait, while you're gone, while you've abandoned your family and your chickens,
They're well taken care
are
of.
they just laying constant eggs and they're just like sitting on a progressively bigger stack of eggs?
No, the eggs are put to good use.
Okay, what would happen if you just walked away from them?
They'd hatch them.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Eggs become chickens. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. They're not just for eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mad Dog's assignment today, she had one job, and
Yeah.
that was to go out and get us cheeseburgers and Big Macs and put round eggs on because Avery told us it was your call, right?
Yeah.
Avery told us on last week's episode that you can just go to McDonald's and
at
order
any time of the day.
any time of the day, order a round egg on a Big Mac, and they'll serve it to you.
Yeah, so I went to 2 different McDonald's. So speaking of 7th Avenue, this also has to do with it. I went to 2 McDonald's that are right by the office. One was on 6th, and I walk in, and it's a really nice McDonald's on the outside, so I figured they would be like helpful in giving me round eggs. I walk in, the lady was obviously distressed because there was a homeless man who may or may not have been on substances in front of me, trying to get.
Crutch?
He did not have a crutch,
Okay.
but he was trying to get free food from her, and then they had to like shoo him off. So she was like already distressed by that. So then I like went up to this woman and I was like, "Hi, can I have 5 cheeseburgers with round eggs?" I also had to ask her first if they took Apple Pay because I forgot my wallet at home. But she asked me, I was like, "Can I have 5 cheeseburgers with round eggs?" And she was like, "We don't do breakfast right now." I go, "So you can't do 5 round eggs on cheeseburgers right now?" And she was like, "No, we can't do that." So then I just walked away because I was like, I don't know what else I want to buy right now that would substitute that. So then I just went away. Then I was like,
Your
okay.
Cleveland accent makes it sound a little bit like you're saying rotten eggs when you say it really fast. Maybe she thought you were ordering cheeseburgers with rotten eggs.
Wait, is it really that bad?
Say it again. Say it really quick.
Round eggs.
A little bit, right?
I didn't hear it till you said that.
Oh, that's what I heard.
Sorry.
Now I hear it.
But now that he said it.
And so then I went to one on 7th, right across the street from Penn Station, which I think is like the dimension to hell. I think you like enter Penn Station and this is just like the escape to hell. And I walk in and I was like, "Hi, can I get 5?" I asked it differently this time. I go, "Is there any way I can get round egg on a cheeseburger right now?" And the lady put it in the cash register. Like, I could see it, the total switching. And then she was like, "No, it won't let me do it on the cash register." Because I go, "If you can do 1, can you do 5?" And she was like, "No, it won't let me use, it won't even let her add an egg on the computer." So now I have a new plan. So I'm sorry that I didn't know what my other option was because no one is going to serve me.
We're far from eggs right now.
We're far from
Billy's
eggs.
right.
So what I'm going to do next week is I'm going to go back to the nicer McDonald's and I'm going to go at 10:15, get 5 Egg McMuffins, and then wait and then go back in line at 10:30 and get 5 cheeseburgers, bring them back, assemble them myself, and then keep them until we record and then warm them up.
That's not the same, though.
I know,
Yeah,
but I
the
don't know
whole
what else to
point-
do.
The whole point was that you could order it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think Avery was I think I was Cap.
Look it up.
But now I want to just try it
But-
just to know.
But people have had egg on burgers before. The whole point was that we thought you could order it at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
Let
You
me
can.
if you're out there and you've ordered an egg on a burger before from McDonald's, let me know how you did it and what you said and what time you went. Or I also think have you gotten it recently? They don't do all day breakfast anymore. So they're not making eggs at noon.
I've not gotten it recently, but I know you can do it. It says you can do it.
So, little fun facts about why 7th Avenue, there's a higher rate of homelessness around here recently is because, fun fact, all the hotels down here during the pandemic, it was actually a smart move. So they couldn't keep all of the people in shelters because they're open air shelters with lots of beds that aren't social distance at all. So what the government did was kill 2 birds with 1 stone and signed contracts with hotels that were all vacant because there's no tourism during COVID and put all of the homeless in the hotels, which around here is all concentrated around Madison Square Garden, Penn Station. So that's why there's so many. It seems that there's so many more homeless people around
Around it.
now.
That's a
So-
smart move.
Is there
Yeah.
is there a McDonald's in Times Square? Like, do you think they would do it in Times Square?
Yeah, there is.
That
have
seems like the least likely place
To
for
do
them to
it?
go out of their way
Yeah.
to do
Oh,
something
true.
extra that
Well,
you
I was
need
just
them
thinking
to
of
do.
places that would like do any McDonald's still do all day breakfast.
You got to
though?
go to like a local McDonald's for that,
Yeah.
where they know your name.
Mm.
You're like, will that be the usual, Madeline?
Do I just need to like become a local at my local like the McDonald's by my apartment? Next, like, week?
That's the way that you do. You got to
And
play a
then-
long game where you go in
Okay.
every morning at the same time. You get the same thing
Okay.
until they know what you order, and then one
Okay.
day you switch it up, and you're like, let me
Just
get
kidding.
cheeseburger with some of those eggs.
Okay, I'm gonna become like the Super Size Me guy for the next week. What is his name? Morgan Spurlock.
Yep, there you go.
That
And
was
then-
a hoax.
What do you mean?
No one's been able to recreate those results.
No.
Oh,
But for the
shit.
next week, I'll just go for every meal, and then they'll be like, "This girl keeps coming in," and they'll be like, "Hey, I've given you a lot of business over this past week.
Yeah.
Can you today help me out?"
So wait, Billy, I want to dig into this a little bit. I know that Morgan Spurlock he self-canceled, right? He was like the first person. He Me Too'd himself, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For being just like a shithead, or what was his? What did he fess up to?
So no one was able to recreate the results that he got from Super Size Me. Let me figure it out. So the experiment, he must fully eat 3 McDonald's meals per day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He must consume every item on the McDonald's menu at least once over the course of 30 days. He managed to do this in 9 days. He could only ingest items that are offered on the McDonald's menu, including bottled water. All outside consumption of food is prohibited. He must supersize the meal if offered, but he cannot request to supersize on his own. So he will attempt to walk about as much as a typical United States citizen based on the suggested figure of 5,000 standardized distance steps per day, but he did not closely adhere to this as he walked more while in New York than in Houston. So at the end of it, he gained in 5 days, he claimed to have gained 9.5 pounds. It was not long before he started experiencing depression, lethargy, headaches. His general practitioner describes him as being addicted at his second weigh-in. And at the end of, in 30 days, he had supersized his meals 9 times along the way. I just want to see the weight. He started at 185, and I think he ended up at like 210 or 220.
The Center for Consumer Freedom kind of says it's bullshit.
Yeah.
He also, when he did that, the Me Too thing,
I love the name of that. Is that a think tank or
The
is
center-
that
it
like an
looks like it,
organization?
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna create a business, and we're just gonna say that people should be free to buy stuff.
But so when he did that Me Too thing, he also said, "Is it because I've been consistently drinking since the age of 13? I haven't been sober for more than a week in 30 years." And apparently in the documentary, the doctor examining him says that the fast food was pickling his liver and that it looked like an alcoholic's after a binge, which was probably because he was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm with Billy. I'm calling bullshit on
Yeah.
Morgan Spurlock. Or we should try to get Billy to do that diet.
Dude.
Also, the another think tank you like, the Citizens Council for Health Freedom, also kind of calls bullshit on it.
Citizens Council for Health Freedom.
Yeah.
What is
Securing health freedom for all.
What is
you want
that?
to go to the About page?
Yeah, I want to know what they mean by health freedom.
CCHF is organized as an independent 501c3 national nonprofit. It was co-founded. This doesn't. Our vision: securing health freedom for all. Our mission: protect healthcare choices, individualized patient care, and medical and genetic privacy rights.
Okay, so that sounds like we want you to be free to choose whatever insurance company you want to pay.
Founded by Martin Kellogg.
Yes, absolutely. That's what when people say like.
Take a look at this guy.
When
He
people
looks
say
like-
health freedom, they mean like you can choose Blue Cross Blue Shield or you can choose Anthem.
Doesn't he look like the Six Flags guy? The dancing commercial guy?
Yes, absolutely.
He went from 185 to 210. He gained 24 pounds.
Yeah, I don't think so, Billy. We should make you do that. We should supersize
I just
Billy.
got back in good shape.
We should
But I want
supersize.
you, I'm for this. I will support this. I want to see this diet. I want to see you
30
on this diet.
days only McDonald's.
Supersize Billy.
McDonald's.
Or we can
Supersize
pick
Billy.
a different fast food place.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'd be down.
Let's do like
Wendy's.
If you do Chick-fil-A,
Wait,
I'll do it
Sonic?
with you.
Oh,
Oh, but
Chick-fil-A.
we can't do Sundays though.
Yeah,
Sundays
but-
you gotta fast. That's
Yeah,
actually kinda
I'll
fire.
fast on Sunday.
Uh-huh.
If you do Chick-fil-A for 30 days, I'll do it with you.
Oh shit!
Can we get it?
I probably
Don't you do that already?
20 anyway.
Yeah.
Can we expense it?
I'm sure that we could, yeah.
Hell yeah! Now we're getting somewhere.
Free food, free Chick-fil-A for a month.
Now
Yeah.
we're getting
Now,
somewhere.
but you have to see a doctor before you get started.
Before
I
and
need to
after.
find. Yeah, I need to get a doctor. like I've outgrown my pediatrician.
Same.
So
How do you get a real doctor?
You still give Billy like a lollipop when his
great
temperature's
no,
good?
dude, my mom posted a picture to Facebook of me like in like my like last time I went to like was in my freshman year of college, and I was like sitting in the waiting room in these tiny chairs, and it was just like one of the funniest pictures ever. I'll actually find it.
So my growing up doctor is my dad's best friend, and that was fine, I guess, when I was growing up. And then at one point I needed an STD test. That was awkward. You just had to walk out of there. He's like, I'll let somebody else handle this one, and I won't say anything to your dad. Turns out I was clean, thank God. But yeah, that was a very strange time in my life. But Billy, do you want to do this?
Let me think about it, because I literally lost 30 pounds recently, like gained a lot of weight during quarantine, and then finally got out of it, and yeah, I was feeling pretty good about it.
It'll be like John Henry, the new story of John Henry, Billy's body against the machine. See if your body, see if you can work out hard enough to beat Chick-fil-A.
Actually, I feel like Chick-fil-A.
The record is 135 days straight.
Of Chick-fil-A?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember there was a TikTok of a guy who did it for a year last year, and he would buy it on Saturdays and like put it in his fridge and then eat it on Sunday. I'm pretty sure it was for a whole year.
I think that Billy, you'd have to not eat on Sundays.
I could do that.
This guy, Alton Ward, says he claims he lost 140 pounds in a year by eating Chick-fil-A.
That's totally bullshit.
And I guess if you only ate like salads.
Yeah.
Grilled chicken.
But yeah, it would have to be like the similar rules where you have to get everything on the menu.
Yeah, grilled chicken wrap.
Yeah. When they say my pleasure, you have to add a fillet.
In New York, they don't do well, you're safe in New York, they don't do it. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
What, the added fillets?
No, saying my pleasure. The Chick-fil-A experience in New York and in the South is not even comparable.
They don't say my pleasure here?
Some of them do, but it's nowhere near what they're supposed to be doing.
Have you ever called in the number on a receipt to report a cashier for not saying my pleasure?
I have not, but they should really, the training at these locations needs to be ramped up a notch.
Billy, I mean, this would be great. You're always looking for new content to do.
I know.
You want to feel like you're earning your full-time keep here. I feel like this would be a good way to do it.
I'll think about it.
You know, I have your performance review with Erica coming up pretty soon.
Seriously?
So it'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd just be interesting to know what I would say if you didn't do this.
Is he a team player
Yeah.
or not?
30 days?
30 days fast on Sunday.
How about 30 days until football start?
Okay.
You just do Chick-fil-A.
All right.
And then that Thursday night, you can switch.
Okay.
You're in?
I'm in.
Okay. All right.
All
We'll
August.
figure it out.
And Billy,
You
you're
gotta find an adult doctor to go to.
Yeah.
Or you know what? It might be funny to go to a kid doctor actually.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Go to a pediatrician.
I gotta find that.
All right,
picture.
so Billy, this is gonna be a good test for you because you're gonna have to do a few things. Okay, you're gonna have to blog this whole thing. Okay,
Jeez.
You're gonna have to do some writing. You're gonna have to find somebody that's gonna be trying to help you produce it. So I don't know if that's Avery. Avery's kind of busy. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. But this is gonna be a big boy test for you. You are executive producing this. No, actually, strike that. I'm executive producing it. You are the producer.
Okay. We'll do it. Let's see. Okay. How about September, end of summer? Because I was planning on bulking anyway at the end of summer.
When this is going to coincide with the end of beach bod season for you?
Yeah,
So you're thinking like the start of September?
exactly. That would work.
All right, that'll give us some time because honestly,
To prep.
I don't necessarily think that you could pull this off with like a week's notice.
Yeah.
This is going to be more like
I also have to get a doctor.
the trick with Billy. By the way, guys, is you have to find a sweet spot for him, the Goldilocks zone for Billy to get stuff done. If it's something that needs to get done like pronto, later this week, maybe early next, that's not going to work. If it's something that is going to happen in a month and a half, he's going to forget about it and be like, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to still be doing that thing that you brought up. So that's not going to work either. The Goldilocks zone for Billy is like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Would you say that's fair?
That's. I mean, I think we're on a different. That was back when I was in school, and like I didn't do this solamente
Like 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, but it's going to be a good test, Billy.
Definitely.
All right?
We'll get it done.
All right. So anything
And
else?
you're in with me?
I'm not going to go to a doctor, but just on the weekdays when you go to Chick-fil-A, I'll go with you. So 5 days a week, I will go with you down to 22nd.
Okay,
and I will
perfect.
eat
Why
Chick-fil-A with
why
you.
don't you want to go to a doctor, my G?
I couldn't tell you the last time I went to a doctor.
So you're unvaccinated.
Fully vaccinated. I wasn't a doctor. I went to the New York State fucking I Am Legend thing they got set up at the Javits Center. You walk in, they've got the military directing you around like we're setting up for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah. No doctors there.
Well,
I'm curious. Are you against doctors? Or are you
No,
just like,
I just don't. I just haven't gone.
I'm kind of with Big T on that one. I don't really see a doctor unless it's an absolute necessity, and even then, I try to get out as quickly as possible.
Anything will go away if you just leave it alone long enough.
Yeah, that's how I'm treating my kidney
even
stones.
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think you should go to the doctor, man.
We'll figure it out.
Both y'all.
if you actually do have health issues, that's clearly not the way to do it. I had somebody be like, "Hey, PFT, that was some really bad advice that you gave because I had a lump on my testicles and I thought that I should ignore it. Then I went to the doctor. It turns out it was cancer. I had to have my nut removed." So for that guy, I will say that yes, if you have a growth, if you're dealing with abnormal health changes, you should see a doctor. But what I'm saying is I know what my problem is with the kidney stones, and I just kind of took the mindset of I'm going to pretend that they're not there. And, once every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll just be in a lot of pain and deal with it that way. That's
What are
Mind over
what are
matter.
kidney stones? I don't really know what they are.
It's a calcium buildup.
It's a good question, Arian. Yeah, it's calcium buildup. Sometimes there's some other stuff in there too. And it just kind of crystallizes inside your kidneys. And you always see in TV shows and things like in movies when a guy passes a kidney stone, it makes it look like he's screaming because he's pissing out like a shard of glass through his dick. Turns out that's not at all what the pain comes from. The pain comes from when the stone goes from your kidney down into your bladder because it's a tiny little channel that it has to go through. It's like the smallest little channel in your body, and it's sharp. It's like super jagged. And so when it makes its way down through whatever that tube is to get into your bladder, that's when it really, really hurts. And then when you piss it out, sometimes it can hurt, sometimes it doesn't feel that bad. But for me, like when it goes from the kidney into the bladder, it's weird pain, man. It is. The nurse told me that she had given birth to 3 or 4 kids, and that passing a kidney stone was more painful, which every single woman I tell that to gets very mad at me for saying that.
And how many of those did you have?
I have about a baker's dozen of them.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they couldn't. There were so many of them on the CAT scan that they gave me. They couldn't tell me exactly how many I have.
Oh my god.
You can have. My dad has chronic kidney stones. Like
Oh.
you get them chronically, and you have to just take like medicine and hope that they like sort themselves out.
You have to drink a lot of water, is what I'm told, and I have to cut back way on my sodium, which I have not done. Sodium is one of those things that's like sodium is in everything. If it doesn't have sodium in it, it's loaded with sugar, and there's really no 2 options that you can have. Yeah, I guess I could eat Billy chicken and let the meat talk and just have it be, unseasoned chicken breast that's been grilled, but that doesn't do it for me.
So I just Googled baker's dozen. I had no idea what that meant.
Oh, really?
It just means 13.
I could have just said
Yeah.
13. Yeah, it was kind of a show-off move on my part.
No, I mean shit.
Yeah.
Flex. I mean,
if I remember correctly, it's like the baker would just give you one to, like, it was like you'd buy a dozen, he'd give you one to eat like on the walk home.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a cool thing.
It's just
Yeah.
being nice.
Yeah, Aaron, what's the most painful injury that you've had?
real quick, why don't you want this to go away?
I do want it to go away, but there's nothing they can do about it. I desperately want it to go away, but the only procedure that they could do is if the stones were bigger, they would shoot a laser up my dick. Quite literally, they would put a laser into my penis and then shoot it up into my kidneys or bladder and break up the stones into like smaller stones. That way I'd be able to piss them out more easily. But right now they're not big enough to the point where they have to break them up. They're small enough that I can pass them on my own. So apparently when they do the dick laser surgery, it's one of the most uncomfortable things that you can go through, believe it or not. And it's like a big recuperative process, and your dick bleeds for months afterwards.
Shout out, my dad got that last year.
Your dad, how's his
Quarantine.
dick now?
I haven't asked. But he had to get that, like, we were all, like, in the stay-at-home part of quarantine, and he literally had to go to the ER while everyone else had COVID and be like, yo, and then they had to laser him.
So
I haven't asked about his.
Does he listen to the show?
He listened to it last week. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mad Dog, I hope that your penis is okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that I would ever want to go through. But yeah,
Wait, so there's no cure for yours right now?
no, it's just like try to change your diet a little bit and try to flush them out as much as you can. And some of them I don't feel when I pass them because they're so small. And then some of them, it's just like it's debilitating pain, which I don't have a problem with necessarily because I get to go to the ER at that point and be like, hey, I need a little bit of pain medicine.
So they just sitting in your kidney right now?
Yeah. Right now they're in there. Like I liken it to you ever look at a glass of milk after you're done eating Oreos and it's got all the specks and stuff floating around in it. That's what the CAT scan looked like. Just tiny little specks everywhere in my kidneys.
So you had 13 to start, or you have 13 now?
They estimated around 30. They couldn't tell me for sure.
So, but you still have most of those?
I'm sure that I do. Yeah.
Oh.
Do you know
Do
that
they regenerate or once you pass them, they're gone?
Well, they're gone. That particular stone's gone. But then if I don't change my diet or whatever's causing them, then they're going to keep occurring.
And what causes them? I'm sorry to turn this into a kidney stone podcast, but I'm curious as shit about this.
It could be high sodium. It could be excess calcium. They're not really 100% sure. There's no one thing that causes all of them. And so one of the things that I can do, which I haven't done, is like piss into a strainer and then collect the kidney stones after I'm peeing them out and then bring those into the doctor and have the doctor look at them and analyze them and tell me exactly what elements are in there. And then that's how I can change my diet and know what I shouldn't be having anymore.
So I think you should take a trip to Disney World.
Agreed.
There is a study that researchers said that Thunder Mountain in Disney World had the exact vibration frequencies in the ride to break up kidney stones.
If you sit in the back. Yep,
Big
that
gap.
said it was like 60-something%. That it wasn't exactly conclusive, but they found that people who sat in the back row, it did actually like do something.
Arian?
That's just cap.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I think who put that study out? Was that done by Disney to try to be like, hey, dads, come to
kidney stones.
Disneyland?
Kidney stone tourism.
Yeah, exactly.
Live science.
Okay.
Has the study been peer reviewed, Billy?
The authors of the new study published on September 26th, the Journal of the American Osteopathic Association noticed that several of their patients had reported passing kidney stones after going on the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad coaster at Disney World in Florida.
Big Thunder Mountain.
in one instance, for example, a man told the doctors that he'd passed a stone after 3 consecutive rides on the roller coaster, according to the study. So what would you rather do? Take a flight down to Disney World, get a fast pass, and just ride Thunder Mountain all day, or get a laser up your dick?
This is America. It's like, would you rather consult with a licensed urologist and have them provide you with affordable health care, or you can take a trip down to Orlando, Florida, and ride a fucking roller coaster repeatedly over the course of a day for way less money? I love that. I might do that, Billy.
Can I come?
Yeah.
It's for science. You guys can write this off too.
Yes. Yeah. All right. I guess I'll be doing that. So the Iraq War. It's about time for us to start talking about the Iraq War. It's been about an hour into this podcast, and this week's topic is the lead up to the war in Iraq. Again, listen, they don't have McDonald's in Iraq. So right off the bat, number one, that's why the war got started. So that's the end of the podcast. If they had fucking Egg McMuffins over there, we would not be in this position right now.
Yeah, so those WMDs.
Yeah, so those WMDs. I guess right off the bat, we can talk about just where everybody was, because I think we were all in different places in life when the second Iraq War began. So, Arian, what were you doing in 2002, 2003?
Real quick, this is an interesting fact. In 1990s, I think Saddam Hussein applied for permits to create a McDonald's in Iraq, but the McDonald's Corporation turned him down due to economic sanctions imposed during the regime of Saddam Hussein.
I would have loved to have been the person in charge of franchising at McDonald's. Like every day you're getting applications from like businessmen in Houston and like Portland, Oregon, trying to open one up, and then Saddam Hussein's name comes across your desk.
You gotta take this one up to this is up it's above my pay grade. I gotta
Gotta kick this upstairs. Listen, I've approved Saddam. He's got the numbers behind him. It works on paper, but I feel like we should get PR involved.
I'm sorry, what was your question? That was hilarious.
Where were you in 2002, 2003?
San Diego, California.
Do you remember as the lead up was happening? Do you remember the sense of like inevitability that we were about to go to war?
No. I remember talking about it in school, but I didn't feel any like kind of immediate threat. Like I wasn't like, oh, they're coming. Like it wasn't like it was when 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm. Were you in high school?
I think it was 2001. No, I was in middle school. Oh, I don't shit. When was that? It was 2001. No,
2002, 2003.
I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school. I forgot. Yeah, I was in high school.
What about you, Coley?
So I was 12 for exactly one day when 9/11 happened. And so that was like 12 to 14 for me. So I was a fucking idiot as a preteen. So it was hard to, it just felt like my uncle was in Desert Storm. So it felt like it was just like, oh yeah, we're going back there.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Billy?
I wasn't even in kindergarten yet. I think I was like at like.
You're in diapers?
No, because I remember I was going to like some church preschool back then. Like I was allowed to go because my sister was there, and I was like the youngest one. But I remember leaving that one day, and they're like, my mom was like, "Yeah, we're going to war," and I was honestly some of my first memories was all that, like just watching the war on TV in the morning.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Big T?
In 2002, I was in Miss Hardwick's kindergarten class at Oak Grove Elementary School. So I remember none of this.
All right. Mad Dog?
Yeah, Billy and I are the same age. So I was in preschool. So I was 4 in 2003.
Avery?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Mm-mm.
Were you alive?
Yeah.
That's 18 years ago, right?
Yeah. I'm 23. I don't remember any of it, though.
So I remember a lot of it. I remember the entire lead up because I was a senior in high school. And I was just turning 18, and so I was just thinking the entire time, like, I'm going to fight in this war at some point. If I wasn't a Quaker, I would probably have to fight in the war. But for me, it was like a sense of inevitability. And it's crazy looking back on it, like we're still in Iraq right now. To this very day, we're in Iraq. And it's crazy how we got there and how kind of like the public opinion on what we're doing there and whether or not we should be there shifted drastically within just like a couple years of us going there. And for some reason, we still haven't gotten the fuck out. It's very strange. I know we technically aren't in that war anymore, and it's been called like a bunch of different things, but we're still very much there. We still have like people that are serving over there. So I don't know. You guys want to go like way back and talk about how we even got to start talking about invading Iraq a second time?
Well, leaving out 9/11, just because I think we should do another show on that, probably on the 20th anniversary.
Maybe.
But basically, I think, it all started with Iraq's non-compliance with the conditions of the 1991 ceasefire agreement.
No, wrong. Wrong, Billy. Very wrong. It started like thousands of years ago, but in modern history, it started in like 1980, when Iran and Iraq were at war with each other. So Iran have you seen the movie Argo?
Yeah.
You remember at the start of Argo where they had the revolution
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of kick out the more secular leader who was a piece of shit in his own right and installed more of a religious cleric?
Yeah, this is one of those things where if you look at pictures of Iran and Iraq from like the 60s, it looks like the women look like they're in 1960s LA. Like It's sort of like it's a much different country and sort of society.
I had some classmates of mine who were from Iraq that were born in Iraq in high school, And like they spoke to the entire class, and they're like, just so you guys know, like Iraq's, yeah, it sucks. Like Hussein sucks, but there are people that just live their everyday lives there, just like you and I do. It's not like it's a little bit different, but it's a normal day-to-day society. It's not like we're over there rubbing our hands together thinking about how to get like an atomic bomb to kill the United States. It was like a relatively regular country that was run by a piece of shit that would murder you if you disagreed with them. But I guess it goes back to like 1979, 1980. Iran gets overthrown in the revolution, and they install like a very religious cleric to lead them. And at that time, Saddam Hussein's taken power in Iraq, and he's afraid. He's very afraid that a similar thing is going to happen to him. So he decides that he's going to start fucking around with the Iranians. And they get into a big, giant war. We choose to supply the Iraqis with weapons, with all sorts of weapons, really. There's a famous picture of Donald Rumsfeld who went over there to meet with him and to supply him with tools to fight against the Iranians. And because at the time, we were that was our enemy. Iran was the big threat to the United States. They were the ones that were chanting that the U.S. is the great Satan in the streets. And so America was not on good terms with Iran at the time. They were taking hostages, all that stuff. So it was one of those things where like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We decide that we're going to fund the Iraqis. So we give the Iraqis technology, we give them money, we give them weapons. They go to war. Saddam Hussein ends up using chemical weapons against the Iranians. He ends up gassing the Kurds, which are their northern neighbors, which were a part of Iraq and still are to a certain extent. But they were a different sect, so Saddam looked at them as being a threat, and he gassed them too. And then in 1990, Saddam Hussein and Iraq still owed Kuwait, the tiny little nation next to Iraq that has a shitload of oil. Saddam owed them $14 billion in loans for the war against Iran. And what do you do? Like, just in general, if you owe somebody a shitload of money that you can't pay them, I feel like trying to take them out is a pretty common move, right? Just like get to them before they get to you. And so that's what he did with Kuwait, and he invaded Kuwait, and then he also put up these like slanting drilling operations where he would just drill underneath the border, which is a genius move. Let's be honest. Like, they have oil underneath their land, and I'm not on their land. Why don't I just make a big diagonal drill? We're just going to build this giant contraption right on the borderline. Don't mind me. And then put it in, had a diagonal, start stealing their shit. And then the U.S. is like, hey, that's fucked up. I know that we gave you all these weapons and all this money, but we get a lot of oil from Kuwait, and we've agreed to protect them. So you got to get the fuck out, Saddam. And Saddam, in one of the dumber moves maybe in military history, was like, I can fight a war against the United States. And got his ass kicked in like a week or two. Pretty much hightailed it back to Baghdad. And then the U.S., their mission was not to find Saddam Hussein. It was not to kill Saddam Hussein. It was just to get them out of Kuwait and protect our oil. So that's what we did. And George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, he was the one that was in charge of that. After being in the CIA and working as kind of a rival of Rumsfeld, but also on a lot of the same Middle Eastern protection deals, he was the president. So he was the guy that was in charge of the war, along with Secretary of Defense. You know who the Secretary of Defense was at the time, guys? Go ahead, take a guess, Billy. Don't look it up. Who was the Secretary of Defense for the first Iraq War? You're forgetting his name.
I actually don't know this.
Big T, you know who the Secretary of Defense was for the first Iraq War?
I don't. I know the second one.
Coley, do you know who the Secretary of Defense was for the first Iraq War?
Feels like it should be an obvious name we all know.
Oh, it is.
Arian, do you know?
No, I tapped out.
Billy, you want to tell the
Yeah.
people who the Secretary of Defense was for the first Iraq War?
Dick Cheney.
It was Dick Cheney.
Ah.
Dick Cheney. You might remember him as the guy that shot his friend in the face. So he was kind of in charge of that first war, and at the time, something very interesting happened while they were dealing with kind of the repercussions of Saddam Hussein and all the bullshit that he was doing. He was he helped the UN send in a bunch of peacekeeping troops. Part of their mission was to inspect and see what Saddam Hussein was building because they didn't want him to have a nuclear weapon. And they told Dick Cheney, they told the UN that they're not working on any nuclear weapons. Well, it turns out they found this one tiny, it was a construction site, I think. They sent the troops in. It was off the books for the Iraqis. So the Iraqis were letting the UN forces in to like their nuclear places, into all their weapons labs, and letting them look around. Well, one day the U.S. thought that they had some intelligence, despite that the CIA said that they weren't working on a nuclear bomb. And the troops go in and they find an advanced nuclear program that was like 9 to 18 months away from making a nuclear weapon. I think this was in 1991. And that's going to prove to be a very pivotal moment because Cheney, from that point on, was like, I do not trust the Iraqis. I do not trust Saddam Hussein. I think that they're trying to build a nuclear weapon. And he also took from that not to necessarily trust all the opinions of the CIA because the CIA had told him that they were not working on a nuclear bomb. So that was in 1990 or 1991, I believe. So you have to have that background, especially given the fact that a lot of the people that were responsible for the second Iraq War, they were also there for the prequel of the first Iraq War, and they were involved to a certain extent, like Rumsfeld, Cheney, Wolfowitz, all these guys. They were around. The Bushes were involved too. So that is like a little bit of background on kind of bringing us up to right before 9/11 and how we got into that initial conflict with Iraq. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing about this that happened on its own. You know, it all goes back to like, in my opinion, any time that you fuck around in a foreign country, there's going to be, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of unintended things that happen in the future because of your presence there that are going to just make things more complicated moving forward. So that's kind of what happened there. You guys probably don't remember anything about the first Iraq War, right?
What year was that?
Yeah, you weren't born, I guess. I just remember watching like a little bit of it on TV. That was one of the first. That might have been the first cable news war that we ever had.
Yeah, I believe it was. I believe it was the first time people at home were like literally watching entire cities get bombed via night vision and someone like quietly talking over it.
Yeah, like what's her name? Christine Amanpour. I remember her and like Geraldo. Why do these guys always show up in the tan khaki vests, by the way? Why is that the outfit that every war correspondent wears?
They're bulletproof?
No, I'm talking just like a normal, like an Old Navy almost vest with some small pockets on the breast. That's how you know somebody's a war correspondent. When they're standing on a rooftop somewhere and they're wearing that vest. But yeah.
Well, don't they have to wear something that says like they're media? And like media is exempt in war, aren't they? Well, they should be anyway.
Yeah, they got like credentials typically around their neck.
Which is wild when you think about it. Like there's like humans fighting each other, trying to kill each other, and like, oh, not that one. They're filming this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Don't kill guys. Handshake agreement. We're not going to kill that guy. I think like once actual war starts and once the fighting begins, people just kind of ignore those rules for the most part. And it's like I thought that his lanyard was like a suicide vest, and then you can just lie about that and get away with it eventually.
The Red Cross was always they were respected at some points. Like those were the people that like because they were saving both sides, like especially in World War I to like World War II. I think there was general respect for the Red Cross, not to shoot them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no,
I don't know if that still
it's a war
applies.
crime. It's a war crime. You're supposed to leave medics and media alone. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it's like pretty known.
Yeah, but we kind of fucked that up with the Osama bin Laden operation because remember one of the things that we did, we sent like a team of doctors to outside that compound saying that they were giving vaccines, and the real purpose of doing that was to try to get the DNA so we could compare and be like, is this person related to Osama bin Laden? And so now it's like no one trusts that anytime somebody says that they're a medical professional that they really are.
Well, no, I'm not saying the U.S. is ethical by any means.
And to be fair, it's not like the people we were fighting there were looking at any of those rules too closely.
That's true. Yeah, they didn't really follow the the rule? They didn't have rules of engagement. It was just like see something, shoot something.
Something I've never understood, and this is going back into a much different type of war, but like the drummer boy, how is that guy not constantly taken out? Good
point. Yeah, and what was the point of the drummer? Was it just to keep people like in rhythm?
I like, it's hard for me to fathom, like you're just announcing your like all I can think of is like the scene in The Patriot. It's just like you're telling everyone exactly where you are. That's how you know old war wasn't really that terrifying.
Soldiers march to battle to the sound of the drums and use the beat to regulate the loading and reloading of their weapons during the battle.
But they used to just show up and play each other and fight each other on a field. Like
right.
They weren't. You know, it was like, oh, like where are we meeting tomorrow morning for the battle?
It was like a soccer game.
Like, Battle of Waterloo. Like,
yeah, who's bringing oranges?
Yeah, or like literally the first group to actually like fight wars, not like two forces like meeting in the field of battle, were the American revolutionaries. The Patriots were the first people to like do like guerrilla warfare, really, and like fight, but like not.
You talk about an extreme advantage to be the first. It's like the first team to throw the forward pass in football.
Yeah, it was a cheat code.
Yeah, the other I was like, well, we didn't agree to this.
Yeah, it's like you're allowed to play defense. What? That's not sporting.
Instead of just shooting in the middle of a field, just like nothing in between, like hide behind a tree and shoot a soldier.
It's like, where'd he go?
I also dispute the fact that we were the first ones to do it because I've seen Braveheart. And in Braveheart, that was kind of like William Wallace's tactic at first. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like back in the day, war was whack, man. War was like, honestly, for dorks, where you would just like show up in a field and then stand perfectly still. And okay, it's your turn to shoot. Okay, now it's our turn to shoot. It was like Red Rover.
Like if you remember the beginning scene in Troy where Achilles fights that giant dude in the field of battle, they used to just be like, two armies would show up and be like, okay, so instead of us all fighting each other, we're just going to send out our best warrior, and whoever wins, wins. And then everyone can go home.
That should still be it. I don't know why we got away from that. Like, our best guy, like Ireland could have had a nice little run there with McGregor.
Yeah. Who would be our guy right now?
Well, like medieval, what type of warfare are we talking?
Okay, good question. So let's just say...
In what country? Because I might nominate Wahlberg.
Gulag? Just like Gulag one-on-one?
Yeah, one-on-one.
Modern weapons?
No, not... I think that you get... Let's say you get... you have a knife, a machete, and then also a bow and arrow.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, good call for the bow and arrow.
That guy knows his way around a bow.
Yeah, but there's so many other guys who are so much better than him.
Well, he would probably
Joe Rogan's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's like,
oh yeah,
he knows
also,
what he's doing.
It'd just be like you got to have it. We can't just go pick some rando. Like it's got to be somebody with some clout.
Marcus Luttrell in his prime. Like you got to pick actual Navy SEALs.
Well, you can't really pick him in his prime because when he was in his prime, you didn't know who he was.
Right.
It's true.
So,
well, actually, probably the guy we would send, we don't know his identity because he's currently. Fighting.
Mystery fighter.
That
makes for a shitty podcast segment. So let's stick to guys we like. Vontez,
a mystery seal.
He's high up.
I think Joe Rogan's not bad because there's always a chance that he just gets into a deep conversation with the person that he's supposed to fight, and then all of a sudden they're bros.
Have you ever tried DMT?
And he's like, dude, you live in Belgium. The taxes there suck. Move to Texas with me.
The Rock, maybe.
Anyone from the Jones family, like John Bones Jones, Chandler Jones, that's just three brothers. Two of them are Super Bowl champions. The other one's one of the greatest hand-to-hand combat artists of all time. Any of those three, Arthur, Chandler, or John Bones.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think that John Bones Jones would be a great pick because he's psycho. You don't need him to pass a drug test or anything like that. You just need him to show up and commit violence.
Brock Lesnar.
Not anymore, no.
But he has a good combination of weapon skills and MMA.
That's not a bad point because he does live in North Dakota
and he
spends
shoots
all
a
his
lot
time
of weapons.
hunting.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you talk about probably the best archer in American history, along with a tremendous athlete, Bo Jackson.
Yeah, he makes his own
gotcha.
arrows, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, you guys are having some good. I think it's got to be Bo Jackson then.
I forgot.
Like
about
any
that.
era.
Represent. Okay.
Yeah, Bo Jackson in his prime could kill any other American in their prime. I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I actually forgot
Greatest-
about that part
yeah.
of his documentary where he's just sitting in his basement, like making arrow tips.
Yeah, just
And he's like,
psycho
"This is
shit.
how I relax now."
Psycho.
Objectively the best 30 for 30.
That's like Jeremy Renner in Wind River when he's just sitting there making his own bullets. That's like real life Bo Jackson with arrows. Okay, well, yeah, I think Bo Jackson just dominated. I think we win. I think we win everything.
Definitely.
But I've always kind of agreed with that. Like, I think that it'd be better if a couple things. One, we just had one person fight. Two, we just had like the presidents of every country are the ones that fight. Or three, we have full scale war, but you're not allowed to use weapons besides just your fists. Just like giant brawls, like Jersey Shore style, just like massive melees on beaches, on like open prairies, in Arctic tundras. That'd be sick, wouldn't it? Just like literally hand to hand, like punching combat.
It is actually crazy, like how much effort like humans put into killing each other. Like for the first, like most of our science, right, was
That's all we do.
Yeah, it was all created like because of war.
Billy, I'm looking at this picture that you just sent to the group text right now. This is Billy at the doctor's office. You're in college here?
Yeah, I think so.
He's in college, and he's at a tiny little table
Wearing a Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma jersey.
with color.
Yeah, it couldn't have been too long ago.
with coloring books, and there's like an abacus behind you. It's a chair for 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that was still your doctor, huh?
Yep.
And like, Billy, it's about time for you to find
I
somebody
need
else.
to go to adult doctor.
I think that we've reached the end of our relationship here.
Yeah. I just stopped going because he was like, "Dude, you're too old," and I was like, "Okay."
Billy got fired by his doctor. Yeah, I agree with all those takes on war. I think the way that we do war just makes no sense, really.
But also think about like how like the average guy was always being sent to war, just like in every country. Like think like if you think about like spans of like 1800 to 1900, like there's so many different like the French and the British fought a war, and then there's like there's so many tiny wars that people just forget about because they aren't the big ones that were just happening all the time across Europe and across the world.
Yeah, I mean, there was the 100 Years' War, right?
Yeah.
People just like spent their entire life just going to war. I do think though, back in the Middle Ages, if you were going to war, a pretty good chance that you'd survive at least once or twice, right?
Yeah.
Because the weapons, it was just like, can you deal with a sword until they invented like the heavy artillery?
It's crazy. And like in those wars, like they do talk about the knights, right, and the cavalry, but like mostly it was just peasants with like not even shields, but just like spears, just like remember the infantry in Braveheart, who were like the Irish? They're just walking out trying to like that's all it was.
And even then, though, it was like maybe not as much as it is now, but now, and you'll see this in the Second Iraq War. Basically, you were going to fight in war if you're poor. It's most people on the front lines they get them signed up from recruiting centers in poor areas, or it's people that can't afford to go to college. So by enlisting, you get to have the GI Bill. You get to have a good opportunity to go to college, as long as you don't have to go to war and fight there. So I think back in the day, it was a little bit different, where it was like a position of like nobility if you were to become a knight, but you probably didn't have to do as much of the dirty stuff.
Yeah, I mean, being on a horse was such an advantage because no one you were just stabbing down on people.
Yep.
And no one would really get to you.
Good point. You had reach.
Yeah.
You were bigger.
I thought that was weird because then they could just cut the horse's legs.
That was like another rule. Like, you don't fuck with the horse.
Oh,
The first thing I'm doing
trying
is
to
take
kill
out the
me
horse.
from. You know what I'm saying? Like, a nigga trying to kill me on top of a horse, and I'm like, but not the animal, bro. Fuck that horse.
Like, there was weird rule, like chivalry, like was literally rules to war that like literally that's definitely gone away in the past 100 years, but like they were like, yeah, we meet in this like nice clear patch of grass, this big field, and we just like line up and like get a good knock on each other. Like how
fucking murder you like a sir.
Yeah.
I mean, doing the Olympics would be sick too if it was just whoever won the Olympics got to accomplish their foreign policy objectives.
Yeah.
That'd be fire.
That's like home field advantage for the MLB All-Star game. That's what we put on the Olympics.
This time it means more.
We definitely like have to rethink the events though, because holy shit, some of these events are just dumb.
We'd have to get football in there.
Yes.
Then those
Yeah, but
rules would
I don't think the world would vote on that though. They would.
Yeah.
They know we dominate that. So
Well, then we'll just go to war against them.
Yeah. Listen, you either line up against Aaron Donald or I'm dropping this on you. What is it?
what you want to do?
Yeah. Pick your poison, buddy. Yeah. What's your least favorite Olympic sport, Arian?
Oh man, I think you tweeted it. If that's an Olympic sport, was it speed walking?
Race walking. Yeah.
That's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life, dog. That has got to be the dumbest shit in existence.
My favorite part about the race walking is when they've got like they got a little butt wiggle while they do it. I don't know if that's necessary for while you're doing the event, or if they just do it because it's for flair and it looks sick.
So I was actually looking up. So the rule is that in order for it to be race walking, you have to have 1 foot on the ground at some time, and you can
All
get
times.
disqualified.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh,
they'll
yeah.
rewatch the race and be like, back on step number 15, you had both feet off the ground, and they do that. They twist their hips to make their stride as long as they can. So you're like, almost. So you're like, I don't know, because like when you stand in a split, your like hips are different.
I feel like I could be good at race walking, but I guess it's a big advantage to have long legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be in the dead last.
Well, no, Coley, that's first of all, that's fucked up.
But
And a HIPAA violation. Second of all, my legs aren't the issue here, Coley. My issue, I've done some eyeball math on myself.
You got a weak gait?
You got to always, be looking to improve. Take a look in the mirror, see what your reality is. I think my legs are perfectly, like, I have the legs of a 6 foot tall man. It's my torso, like my thorax, if we're using like insect terms.
Yeah, spider, yeah.
From my waist to the bottom of my rib cage is short, which is also why I don't have a six pack. I totally would if it was a little bit longer. But that's the short part of my body. So I feel like maybe like Michael Phelps has developed his body specifically for swimming. I might be born to race walk.
that was like Usain Bolt. Like Usain Bolt's at 6'6", but he has a tiny torso and just long ass legs.
Yeah. My legs are like slightly below average size, but they're still long for my height, if that makes sense. Anyways,
Billy, did you see we got chirped by like the official handball?
Yeah. I might film the handball combine video. They have virtual tryouts. So it's like a 20-meter sprint. Throw a handball as far as you can and just send a video of throwing a handball on the run. And that's
they
broad jump.
challenged us. They challenged us to straight up play. We've got 5 right here.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
I'm down. There's actually a tournament this weekend in New Jersey, and I might just I think I might have to gather a team and go
Where
out
is it?
there. It's in somewhere in New Jersey. It's like an hour outside of the city.
okay.
Could go.
I mean, handball is just they took like the worst parts of both basketball and soccer and made a sport.
Yeah. I think it'd be, but the only thing is that the defense is weird, and shooting you have to figure like there's some certain rules to shooting that are like you can't
Right.
hit the guy in the face, and like pinning corners is
Feels like his problem if I hit him in
Yeah.
the face.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Catch the ball, dude. Like I don't.
So if you could be the greatest goalie of all time if you were really good at hitting the ball with your face.
And also international players, they can throw with their right and left hand.
I think
I'm not
anyone
worried about that.
can do that, right? Like
Shoot full speed with your left hand.
I can throw something with my left hand.
Right, but like with the accuracy and power of your right hand.
I'm gonna do the combine, but I'm gonna do it all with a vortex football, and be like, look at this arm power. Just airmail one 70 yards. No big deal.
Why do they care so much about the sprint speed? Like you really can't do much with your speed in that sport.
Yeah, I think it's more like basketball. You know.
But basketball, you can dribble. Like I understand the need for speed in basketball. Like this, really, you don't.
Yeah, I think getting to the hole to play defense.
Yeah, I've seen some fat people playing handball though. There's one.
That's what I'm saying.
There's one dude who's like a chonk legend, like a great handball player,
Yeah.
and I think he weighs like 270, 280.
Oh, more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, for sure. He was well into the 300s.
Let's go.
He was a big boy. I'm watching this right now. I feel like I could be a solid handball player.
Yeah.
You know who would suck at handball?
Who?
Saddam.
Yeah. Because he's dead.
Coley, were you gonna say that I couldn't be good at handball?
No, I wasn't saying that at all. It furthered my point. Like I think most people are pretty good at handball. Most people just don't play it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got good reach. Like wingspan feels to me what you need in this sport, and I feel like I've got that.
1000% agree. That's my whole like. I can get a shot up against any of these defenders they're throwing at me.
Billy,
Not
if you're putting a team together, I want to play handball.
You know who was 6'4"?
Bin Laden.
Yeah.
No, Bin Laden.
Bin Laden. No, he was taller than that, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He was
like,
tall as hell.
He may have been like 6'6". He was a tall.
He should have hooped.
Should have hooped.
Yeah.
Should have called him Osama bin
You know,
Laden.
oh my God.
He was
You know what's
6'5".
been a fire That's it. You know what'd have been a fire ass Olympic sport is y'all remember slam ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would have been cracking.
Dude, I think slam ball is coming back.
No, I followed them on Instagram.
So we were talking to the dude that invented it, and he was saying that the best slam ball players weren't basketball players. They were football players that liked to play basketball because there was a big element of just jumping into people and hitting them involved. And basketball players were like too soft to do it. But if you could find like a good free safety, that would be the best slam ball athlete.
Honey Badger.
I agree.
Honey Badger would kick ass, yeah. So yeah, Billy, you're right. I think Saddam Hussein does suck at handball.
He like basically he had these what they didn't find that good weapons of mass destruction in Iraq at the end of it. They found a lot of old weapons caches that they were using on the Kurds in the 1990s. But what they did find was a shit ton of torture rooms.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit. What you're basically saying right now is like when a cop goes in for a giant no-knock drug bust and he's like, "We got 2 roaches in here. I knew they were up to something." You know, like justifying like that after the fact. But I think we should back up and say why we went to war in Iraq to begin with.
True.
Like the lead up to it. Because the lead up, it felt like, to me, it felt like it was inevitable. When we started talking about it, I still remember like in the couple months after 9/11, there were whispers of like, was Iraq involved in this? Did Mohammed Atta meet with Iraqi agents when he was in Prague getting ready for 9/11? And I still specifically very much remember there was a speech that Dick Cheney gave. I don't know exactly when it was. I want to say it was like September of 2022 because I remember what class I was in when I watched it. And he was talking to a VFW hall. And I think that's when he said the line, "We don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud." And the speech was essentially saying, I want to go to war against Iraq. And if you don't agree with me, then we're going to get nuked. And I just remember watching that and thinking to myself, like, is this just what we're just gonna start a war because this guy is saying that we should go to war? Like, we're already in Afghanistan? Why are we gonna just start a war just for shits and giggles? It didn't really make that much sense to me at the time, but I remember that run up and just feeling like the entire year, okay, get ready because we're about to go to war and it's going to happen. And the reasons behind it was because he did think that they were building a nuclear program, right? Mm. He thought that they were building, that they had a chemical weapons program that was still advanced. And a lot of the reason why he thought that was because he knew exactly what we had given him when he was Secretary of Defense and when he was working in the various administrations before that. He knew that Saddam Hussein had been outfitted with a bunch of just crazy weapons and that he wasn't afraid to use them because he had gassed the Kurds and he gassed the Iranians. So it felt like the big pretext for why we were going to go to war in Iraq was, one, we don't want them to build a nuke, and we think that they're close to developing a nuke. Why did he think that? Probably because he saw that they were trying to build a nuke back in the early 90s. Now, after that war was over, they shut down, like the UN had to go in and inspect routinely, and they had to disarm. That was part of the conditions after the first war, was he basically was not allowed to have new planes, had to limit his army, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, but Cheney didn't believe that. Cheney thought that they were still developing a nuke. Second reason why, in addition to weapons of mass destruction, was he tried to kill George Bush's dad. And W said that at one point when people were pushing back and being like, why are we going to war against Saddam Hussein? And after Bush laid out the CIA case for going to war, he got frustrated at one point. He was like, remember, this is the guy that tried to kill my daddy, all right? And, like, I kind of get that. Like, if Saddam Hussein tried to kill my father, I probably just wouldn't let him off the hook. I'd probably be pissed at him for a good long time about that. But that was a big reason why. And then the third reason was they tried to tie it in to 9/11 and say that Saddam Hussein had helped to fund or plan the 9/11 attacks. And so those were the three cases that they made. And do you guys remember Colin Powell, like, giving that the speech to the UN? All right, embrace debate. Do you feel bad for Colin Powell, or are you like, he got played, or are you like, fuck Colin Powell?
So looking into it, there was a lot. Iraq was showing that Iraq and Iran were in a little bit of a Cold War, like an information war at this time, because Iraq, wanted to show force and show strength. So a lot of the intel that the CIA relied on and a lot of the intelligence agencies relied on was actually Iraq making it seem like they had weapons of mass destruction, more nuclear than chemical, in order to deter Iran and sort of show strength in the region. And a lot of this came out in basically when all this was going on with Congress, there was basically there's this NIE distributed, and the thing about this document was that most of the Congress people didn't actually read the full document, but relied on this other document that had been made before the larger document that was distributed to the public, and they thought that it was a sanitized, like, Cliff Notes, Sparks Notes version of the big document, but it actually wasn't, and actually was, these public white papers were actually made much before any of the real intelligence was looked upon, and it wasn't a condensed version of these larger documents. And this really sort of not confused but misled a lot of the officials. And even, like, for example, Senator John F. Kerry said, all U.S. intelligence experts agree that Iraq is seeking nuclear weapons. There is little question that Saddam Hussein wants to develop nuclear weapons. Everyone thought this weapons of mass destruction idea is a large umbrella that has chemical weapons, other types of weapons, and nuclear weapons, but it was sort of the synonymous sort of correlation between weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons that really got everyone going.
It's interesting you brought up John Kerry, because I remember after 9/11 there was it was like a swelling sense of, like, American pride, American nationalism. Like, we wanted to band together, we wanted to get back at the people that attacked us. People were a little bit afraid, and then once they kind of shifted some of the spotlight to Iraq, anyone that objected to it was basically called a pussy. It's like, you don't support America, you don't support the troops if you're not supporting going to war in Iraq. You guys remember freedom fries? You guys probably. Oh, yeah. So this was fucking wild. One of the things that we tried to do in order to make the invasion of Iraq more justified from an international standpoint was we tried to get as many countries as we could to, like, have our back, and that way it's not just us, it's the international community that's going in and doing this to Saddam Hussein. And so France was like, you know what? I don't think the intelligence isn't that great for us, so we're going to pass on this war. We'll still help you in Afghanistan, but I don't think that this doesn't seem like a good thing for France to be doing right now. And so then Congress, I think they passed like a resolution where they would no longer call French fries, they could call them freedom fries. And they encouraged all other Americans to do the same thing. That's an old takes exposed right there moment for America. It's like, maybe France had a point, but I still respect the move.
The term was created in February 2003 in a North Carolina restaurant and was widely publicized a month later when then Republican chairman of the Committee on House Administration, Bob Ney, renamed the menu in 3 congressional cafeterias.
Freedom fries. That did it.
We should still do that, by the way. That's just what they should be
Oh,
called.
I like to toss that in every now and then as a joke. I'm like, let me get some freedom fries, or you want a freedom kiss? That usually doesn't work, actually. Says
It's the lamest shit ever. We're gonna change what our food is called if you don't fuck with us no more. That's just the lamest. So square.
Freedom fries. Honestly, when they said freedom fries, I was like, you know what? They have a point. Like, I think I'm in favor of the war in Iraq now.
Sold.
Yeah. No, it was wild because if you didn't support it, if you, especially if you were a politician, politicians were deathly afraid of being labeled as being soft on terrorism. So if you could connect anything to terrorism to them, they were going to go ahead and they were going to support it. And that's why, like John Kerry, he ended up running for president a couple years after the fact. But he had supported the war in Iraq, and it's tough to run on a platform of George Bush made a mistake by sending us to Iraq when you voted in favor of the war in Iraq. So that was a classic John Kerry flip-flop moment. Got called out on, got his ass kicked. Yeah, Billy?
Also, everyone thought it was going to be another short war.
Yeah.
That was another. Everyone thought it was going to be just like the first Iraq war, but then once Saddam was taken out of power, it was sort of like, oh, we have to do this nation building thing.
Yeah. So I don't have it in front of me. Maybe you can look it up. But I remember when we invaded Iraq, the name of the operation was called something, and then within like a week of being there, we changed the entire name to Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah.
And so it was like when we went in, we did not go in. The American public was not told at all that the reason that we were there was to help out the Iraqi citizens and that we were there to make their lives easier and give them democracy. That had nothing to do with it, because although you can make the argument that's a noble goal, is to help a society achieve democracy and overthrow a tyrant. The fact is, like, we would never have signed up for a foreign war if that was the only reason why. Because you can take your pick as to any other country in the world that's not run by, in the form of a democracy. Because if we're going to invade that one for that reason, then why aren't we invading this one and this one and this one? So we were told, Operation...
Desert Storm was 91.
That was 91, which is a badass name.
I know.
Really strong name.
Desert Saber was another one, but I can't remember. But Operation Enduring Freedom is what we were doing in Afghanistan around 2010, which has nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Let's see, original name.
Desert Shield was also
Iraq. That was against, I think, Kuwait, wasn't it?
Oh no, Desert Shield was 2006. It was a major push into the Anbar province.
That was the troop surge.
So this is from 2003. It says the U.S. offensive against Iraq, born early yesterday, now has a name, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Until now, the protracted U.S. military buildup in the Persian Gulf had no handle of its own.
I thought it had a different one. Maybe somebody out there can tell us what it was initially called. Because I remember when they gave it that label, everybody was like, "Wait, what?" That's not really
Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah, so
2003 to 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It wasn't Operation Southern Watch, was it?
No, it wasn't. I'm not even sure if it was called Operation something, but it had a different title when it first started, and that was the shock and awe. Oh, by the way, you know that Colin Powell speech to the UN, that was part of trying to get like France and Germany and all these other countries on board. You know who wrote that?
Who?
The speech wasn't written by Powell or anybody at the State Department. It was written by Dick Cheney's chief of staff, Scooter Libby. So, again, this basically the second war in Iraq was Dick Cheney being like, we should have killed this guy the first time, and I don't trust him, and so I'm going to take my second shot at it. So once 9/11 happened, Richard Clarke, who's kind of like, I don't know how you guys feel about the people that used to work in counterterrorism or like the CIA that are all over cable news now all the time, giving their opinions on shit and like second guessing people. I feel like those guys are kind of slime balls in general because like what are you doing? You're trying to make a TV career out of getting fired from your job at the CIA. It's weird to me. Do you guys get like, I don't know, untrustworthy vibes from some of those people?
Yeah. It was their whole career leading up to this point. Like that's embedded in their DNA.
Yeah, and so that's like what Richard Clark has started. He's seen himself as like a TV celebrity, but before he was a TV celebrity and doing all the morning shows and shit, he was working in counterterrorism for like a bunch of different administrations. So he'd been around for Democrats, Republicans, the whole lot. And I remember reading his book when it came out in like 2005, 2006. Basically said on 9/11, after the attacks, George Bush and Dick Cheney both were like, figure out a way that Saddam Hussein was responsible for this, because I know Saddam and I know that he had a hand in this somehow. They were like, from the get-go, I'm not saying that they were telling him to lie about anything or they were making up the fact that they thought he was involved. I think they probably thought that he was involved because they all had hard-ons for Saddam Hussein, given what they had done and the wars that they had been with him in the past. So they like told the counterterrorism people, like, figure out a way that he's attached. And then they were like, well, he's not. He's not attached. But when you have like a leader that's telling you, look into Saddam Hussein, I think he's connected, eventually you're going to like figure out a way to tie him in or make him look bad. When you start with a conclusion, I guess is what I'm saying, you're going to figure out ways to fill in the gaps a little bit.
There was always this assertion Vice President Cheney made that suggested that an Iraqi intelligence officer met with one of the hijackers. I think we mentioned this earlier, but it was always this narrative that was being pushed. But the thing was, there was a universal consensus amongst a lot of European nations, and they didn't necessarily want to go to war with Iraq, but like places like Germany, who weren't entirely sure on it, they all thought at the time that there was weapons of mass destruction. What we now know is that there wasn't, nothing concrete was found. The mobile production facilities for biological agents that Colin Powell was talking about in his addressing the Senate, I think, was never really truly found. Just a lot of stuff from the early 1990s. But if you read American Sniper, and this is a weird assertion, Chris Kyle in that book says that they found weapons that they thought to be from American allies in Iraq. Now, I'm not calling anyone a liar or anything, but that's just a really weird thing to throw in there, like being like, yeah, we didn't find weapons of mass destruction, but we found a lot of weapons that we don't know where they came from. It's actually a weird sort of like slipping in the book.
Wait, he was saying that they found weapons when they were clearing houses that were from friendly nations to the United States,
France,
allies.
Germany, especially France was being thrown in there.
I mean, the arms trade to me is like drug dealing. It's just like there are people that are always going to be trying to move some sort of product, like regardless of what treaties they're enacted in. If you're sitting on a pile of like Stinger missiles, you're like, hey, all this dead inventory is costing me weight. I don't care who I'm selling it to. Let's get it off my hands. But Chris Kyle also, didn't he said some weird shit in his book, right?
Yeah.
Like, didn't he say that he sniped people in New Orleans from the Superdome?
Yeah, there was a lot of talks about he was deployed. So when I was in high school, I used to read all these books, and I was like, this is has to be true. Like, I'm beginning to question some of it. I really wanted to be a Navy SEAL if my college football career didn't work out and I didn't get recruited. So that was like where I was going with it. So I read all the books.
Instead, you're going to be a handball player.
Yeah, we're going to get there. But he was also, you know what else is crazy? So the amount of private contractors that were used, especially running up to the Iraq war, basically we launched the invasion of Iraq from a base that was built by private contractors, and most of the invasion was a lot of private military contractors such as Blackwater. They're now known as Z, which is this pretty shady organizations when their business is literally war, like, not under any country's flag, just guys being deployed for money.
Mercenaries, yeah.
So it's a very interesting, because they were also...
I think they didn't really do the invasion. We started using those contractors like after it had been invaded, and we put them in to maintain and like try to put down some of the insurgents, right?
No, in the run-up, even before we declared war, they were involved. They had contracts going with the U.S. government. It was sort of one of these weird things, and their involvement in Iraq is like been very like talked about, and how they basically were, just because they weren't operating under a country's military, they were doing the worst stuff, and just like all the problems that the military had, a lot of it was just slipped right under the rug, because they were literally just shooting up like town squares, and like literally all the crazy stories you hear about, like roided up commandos like going nuts, like drinking and just shooting up places, like this was all real. Like this were these military contractors.
So if you want to go back and look at the actual vote, so after Colin Powell makes the case to the UN, and there's a bunch of stuff in that case that he was delivering to them, which was just, it's now demonstrably not true. So when he was getting briefed by Scooter Libby, he took that speech to the CIA, and he would ask them, "Oh, how do you know? Like, where's the connection between Muhammad Atta and the Iraqi regime?" And they would say, "Well, we have a source in Germany that said it." And it turns out that the source was total bullshit. It was like a German intelligence source that had been washed through like a couple levels, and even German intelligence was saying that was bullshit. But again, this all kind of goes back to tying in things in order to make your boss happy when you're
But
writing
we
a
don't
report.
think that he delivered that speech thinking that was false, right?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I don't think that Colin Powell, he seems like he's, I don't know, I don't know the guy personally.
Well, and that's...
I sold a
he was
Christmas
like,
tree to his wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and like he was such a respectable figure, right? That's why it was such a big deal that he said it.
Yeah.
Like that's why they had him do that.
Yes.
So
because he was, so if you looked at like who was more trustworthy at the time, Dick Cheney or Colin Powell, it's like no, I don't think anyone's ever really trusted Dick Cheney. Ever. Like even his friends.
Probably.
They're just like, he's always pulling one over on us. So yeah, Colin Powell was looked at with, I mean, he was involved in the first Iraq War also. But they asked him to give that speech. I don't think that he was, I don't think he would not have given that speech if he knew that there was like
think so either.
all sorts of stuff that was not true in it. So then they write up the authorization for use of military force against Iraq in 2002. I don't know about you guys. I was always taught like in school that Congress goes to war, right? That's part of their, like that's the job. If you look at the separation of power, like checks and balances, Congress decides when to go to war because they represent the American people. Like a president doesn't decide that, right?
No, not usually.
So I don't know. I've noticed this recently, but now it's the president writes up, "Hey, I want to go to war," and then they go to Congress to ask them to authorize the president to go to war.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that sounds right.
it's got to be for some sort of legality where it can absolve the actual forces that are on the ground or the people that are involved in the construction of the war. I don't know why they do it, but I remember that this is one of the first times that I at least remember happening. So they write up the use of force agreement, passes the House 296 to 133, and then it passes the Senate 77 to 23. Think about that. 70 in the Senate, in the United States Senate, like we can't agree to do anything past like a 50-50 split, maybe 51-49 for like a bill that's giving like larger amounts of vaccines to rural communities. Maybe we'll get that through like 53 to 47, maybe. 77 people in the U.S. Senate were like, yeah, let's go to war in Iraq. This is going to be a good idea. Because they were all kind of pussies. And they were like, you know what? People are going to call us soft on terror if we don't go along with this and vote for it. So 77 people. I will never trust a representative that voted to go to war in Iraq. And as Big T brought up,
Hillary Clinton?
You were really excited to bring that up.
She voted yes.
Hillary Clinton.
You said that, not me.
I will never trust Hillary Clinton for that reason. That she allowed. Well, I don't know what position she had. Maybe she thought that we should go to war with Iraq to begin with, because I know that Bill launched a couple Scud missiles to distract people from Monica choking down his hog. You remember that? That was an all-time moment. I feel like we don't talk about that enough as a country. I think it was the day that the Kinstar report came out, Bill Clinton lobbed like 4 Tomahawk cruise missiles at soap factories in Africa and Iraq, I believe, and like went on television that night and was like, my fellow Americans, I've encountered a grave threat to y'all, and I've decided to take action to protect the security of the United States. But it was really just because reporters had gotten their hands on the Kinstar report and were reading about him shoving a Macanudo into Monica Lewinsky's vagina. It's literally what he did. Just like incredible spin zone. I'm going to start a war.
I mean, anything to not get caught.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe. Yeah.
You know who else voted to go to war?
Who's that?
Biden.
Yeah, Biden. Joe Biden did.
So you don't trust him?
I do not fully trust Joe Biden. No.
Okay.
I think anyone that has allowed themselves to, like, I don't know. People forget when we haven't been to war in a while. This happens in our country a lot. When we haven't been in a real war for a while, we forget that war kind of sucks, and we start to have all these like military advancements and technology. We do have like the most advanced military in the history of the planet, and we think that, oh, war is not a big deal. We'll just, we'll send in a few laser guided bombs and we'll be out of there. And I think Rumsfeld said, I don't know how long it's going to take. It might take days, it might take weeks, it might take months, but it's not going to take years. Because that was like the feeling. We'll just put some laser guided bombs on the right targets and boom, that's the end of the war. It turns out that going to war sucks. It sucks really bad for the people that are involved in it. Sucks for their families. Sucks when they get back from war. Even if we accomplish all our objectives, like it's going to fuck people up for a long time. It's not a good thing to go to war, but people forget that. Like it sounds insane to be like, people forget that war's bad, but it's actually true. It's like very true.
It's because it's so like we memorialize it so much, and it's almost like the allure of it kind of waters down the reality of it. Like even when politicians talk about war, they're like, we lost this many people or this many people. That's just like, yo, those were humans that actually died for your stupid fucking cause. Like, and the majority of wars are fucking stupid. They're just like ego-driven politics or greedy humans. And it's like you really forget how gory the shit is.
And also, this was the Iraq. I mean, the wars in the Middle East are some of the, like, everyone talks about how war changed. World War I, there was shells. People started getting shell shocked. It's a whole different, like, psychology when you have guys going out in Humvees and they don't really see the enemy most of the times. It's usually these guerrilla warfare tactics, these IEDs, this mental omnipresent idea that, hey, I'm in this car and it might blow up in 5 seconds. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think any of us will ever be able to, who haven't been through it, like understand the immense psychological stress that so much of the armed forces go through when deploying these countries. And literally, I mean, it's
constant. Also, I keep a running list of people that I fucking hate because of the Iraq war. And everybody should, honestly. The fact that we've lost so many people over there and had so many of our neighbors and friends like come back disabled or dealing with mental issues, as well as like maybe upwards of 1 million Iraqi civilians that were killed for really no reason whatsoever. Everyone should be really pissed off about it. So I've got my list. Hillary Clinton is definitely on that list, Big T. Joe Biden is definitely on that list. Also on that list, basically the entire staff of the New York Times at the time. Because the New York Times, they were fucking morons. They were the, how Darren Ravel will take a press release from Budweiser and be like, oh, Budweiser is putting their logo on the coin flip for the Super Bowl this year. First look. And then like just copy and paste whatever they sent to him. That's what the New York Times was doing, helping make the case to Americans that we should invade Iraq, just publishing bullshit to the point where in 2004, I think like a year after the Iraq war started, they ran, May 26, 2004, they ran a giant apology note for getting us into the Iraq war. So water under the bridge, New York Times, but they're still on my shit list.
Well, morons publishing bullshit at the New York Times, I guess not much has changed in that regard. in 20 years.
There you go. It's funny to me when like a writer at the New York Times will
Even Arian thought that was kind of funny. He tried not to laugh.
You're definitely funny, Big T.
Well, people, I think it's fair to say, like, people that write for the New York Times, they're not your friends. They have their agendas too. They have their friends in government that they try to protect, their sources and things like that. They get a lot of stuff right because I think they're usually, a lot of times they're good reporters trying to do the right thing. But other times they just show that they're spineless wimps that'll just write whatever you tell them to write.
I think a lot of the situation in America right now with misinformation and people not trusting, certain entities stems a lot from this. Like if we think about like going into Iraq, like, you had a whole, thousands of people who, they were basically telling them to send their sons and daughters overseas to do this. And, now it's just sort of sad that we've gotten to a point where people just don't trust the government because of all these decisions that have like occurred.
Mm-hmm.
When has there ever been uniformity in trusting the government?
I think World War II was probably the last time.
Yeah.
Or Vietnam changed a lot of that.
I mean, not from my vantage point. Like,
True. Yeah.
Nah. Like, there's just never been. The U.S. has always been like that. It's always been like deceptive, and the king of propaganda, like yellow journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what we talked about last week was like they like even like so when we did that whole like kneeling on the anthem thing, right? This was always intriguing to me how it's like it's insane how there's like a contract, the military has a contract with the NFL to promote like militarism, like the flying over the stadium and all the military stuff, like the military day. That's all contracted. Like that's insane. Like one of my girlfriends from college, she was from Germany. And one time we was watching TV and there was like an ad about, be all you can be, the US Army thing. And she was like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, it's an Army commercial. She's like, you guys like recruit people on TV? Like, that's insane. Like to go to the Army? Like we don't think about it like that because it's so normalized. But like people that aren't used to it, like that is kind of wild, dog. That they like it's one commercial's like, yo, come fight for us, and the next is like a burger commercial. That's weird. It's a little weird.
It's strange that they have commercials for the military and then like commercials for like drugs that you should ask your doctor to prescribe for you, like back to back. Other people don't understand that from other countries.
The military does make some fire commercials, though. You remember the one back in the day where like the demon like came out of the ocean and it was just like one guy ready to gun him down? I could see Billy, like 12-year-old Billy, being like, "Fuck him up."
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I was totally suckered into all that. Like, I mean, when American Sniper came out, I was just like, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. Like, this is gonna happen. Like. And then there was the Call of Duty ones that they're using to recruit kids nowadays, where like they show like a cool like Call of Duty-esque video game, and then the like character turns to you and goes, "You're sitting on your couch and doing this? Come go do this in real life." And then it like zooms out of the TV, and it's like some guy like playing video games on his couch, being like, "Yeah, like I'm gonna go do this shit in real life."
That's the exact opposite of what I want to. I really want to sit on my couch and do that.
Yeah. I mean, dude, NYPD just deployed that new video game van where they're trying to like. That's all that is. That's a recruitment tool. They're gonna only have Call of Duty, Battlefront, all those games loaded in there, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're really good at this. Do you want money to do this in the real world?" That's all it's gonna be.
Hang on, the NYPD's going around with a van, like getting kids to play
like a
Call
bus.
of Duty?
Sorry, bus is more accurate. It's like a big. It went viral a week or two ago. It's like a big bus that's just loaded up with PlayStations and Xboxes.
They were saying that they were using that to collect
fingerprints
and DNA.
I'm sure they're doing a lot of things with that bus. Yeah,
it's a very.
It's not just to let them play video games.
Yeah.
Didn't SOCOM? They were like the Navy was involved in like a lot of those video games that came out like as consultants.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a
it
hot
all
take.
works.
Call of Duty, pretty trash.
You don't like COD?
Call of Duty is so like this is why I got introduced to Valorant. Have you heard of that? It's a PC game.
yeah.
So it's like CS:GO, mixed with Overwatch, so it's like that character. But anyway, the gunplay on it is so dope because it's like very strategic shooting. Like if you shoot somebody in the head, they dead, right? But like in Call of Duty, like you gotta hold them, like you gotta. It's just too much, man. It's just unrealistic. I don't like it.
The game's changed. It used to be a lot better. Time ago.
My shit was Modern Warfare 2 was my favorite.
Yep.
And then after that, they lost me with Black Ops 3.
And also, there are a lot of bugs now. And people complain about it.
Yeah.
I just started playing Call of Duty during quarantine. But
I may be the worst player in the history of Call of Duty, but I'm really good at being a rat. Like I'll camp out in a building. And I'll just accumulate kills. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
I hate you. I hate you.
Name of the game is to win, right?
Nah, bro. Fuck out of here, man.
Yeah,
it's not skill. There's no skill involved in that. That's a hot debate for the internet. Like, who are the campers? Like, come out.
They took away a lot of my good nesting sites, so I can't camp as much as I used to. So I have to get out there and involved in the action a little bit more. But yeah, for a while, I mean, I think I've got like 6 or 7 solo wins. Hank still doesn't have any. That's tough break for Hank Lockwood, even though he's much better than me. Let's wrap up some of the Iraq War stuff though. So we invade Iraq and we shock and awe them, and then we change the name of Iraqi soldiers to enemy combatants. That way we can keep them and torture them for a while. That was a big deal when Rumsfeld came out and was like, we're not calling them soldiers anymore, by the way. They're enemy combatants. So legally, by saying that, we can waterboard them. And then the biggest fuck up that we did in the Iraq War, I actually think that things might have turned out pretty well. This might have been a pretty successful war in terms of like accomplishing our objectives, because we did steamroll them because their army sucks and their leadership sucked. They didn't have the support of the people. So we steamroll them in like 2 weeks, and then we make the decision to disband the entire Iraqi army. And so that might seem like a smart idea just like when you hear it, because it's like, well, we fought a war against them. Yeah, we should probably get rid of the entire army. But what it did was it put all the young men that were aged like 16 to 40 with weapons training out on the streets with no job and no income for their entire family. And then they just try to get money from whoever they can get money from. They end up being the ones that probably would have been on our side if we had just continued to pay them and just reformed the army without the Ba'athist Saddam Hussein regime like controlling them. But instead, we put them out on the streets. They didn't have any money. They were pissed off, and then they started an insurgency against us. And then that kind of caught on, and then one thing kind of led to another, and we're still in the country 18 years later. I don't know. That's like a big point of debate. Like, is that hindsight saying that you should keep the army around once you just got done starting a war with them? But we said we're not fighting a war against the Iraqi people. We're fighting it against Saddam Hussein, right? So I don't know. I feel like I don't think that that's hot of a take to say we should not have disbanded the entire army after we kicked their ass.
And then ISIS happened. Actually, I read a whole book on ISIS. They weren't the JV team like Obama said. They're actually like literally basically what happens, they had this prison. I think it might have been Al Ghurab, the one that came out with the prison with the
Abu Ghraib?
Yeah, I'm pronouncing it terribly. But the ones with the pictures and the US soldiers like messing with the prisoners pretty badly. But basically, I think it was this prison, but basically it was a training ground for terrorists because they took all the terrorists and they put them in this prison along with other criminals who weren't necessarily terrorists. And basically the terrorists were like, well, what are you in here for? And they taught all of each other how to do certain, like, build IEDs, like, you know, there was a lot of radicalization within that prison. And then the prison got disbanded. You had guys like al-Assad, who then started ISIS and basically installed a caliphate in all of the regions that the U.S. had drawn back from. And like at one time, because that was when I was really like I wanted to go fight ISIS in high school. Like that was the new propaganda on the war on terror.
I'm actually interested. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I'm actually interested in that mindset, dog. Like because like when I look at military commercials and stuff, like because of my upbringing, I look at them entirely different than you probably did. So like what is the mindset like when you see that kind of shit? Like what do you go through?
You're 14, 15 years old. You know, you grew up in a environment where you were taught to love America and blindly, you know, stand for the anthem. Like, it's very, you know, patriotic mindset. It was sort of very coupled with masculinity in a way that, like, oh, you don't love your country, like pussy or something like that. Like, and you basically get to a point where you're like, you know, you're sort of thinking like, what do you want to do with your life? And you start to look at all the things that you like believe in, and you're like, well, I love America. Like, America has done so much good for me. Like, I would definitely fight for America. And you see U.S. soldiers and, like, you know, people in your community as well as people you know, and they're all like, you know, I have military service in my family. Both my grandfathers served. So it was kind of like, you know, it made a lot of sense that, like, I could hypothetically either go serve or, you know, like that was sort of my fallback plan if I didn't play football in college.
When it comes to ISIS, though, I'm going to give you a little spin zone. Maybe like it's a PR 101 move for ISIS, actually. Do you think that there's a possibility that, like, the reason why ISIS became such a well-known thing is because they put out, like, so many of the worst, most gruesome videos, like the evilest people that you could imagine. The shit that they were doing to people, torturing and killing them, was just like, it was unlike anything that we've ever seen. Like, they took pride in coming up with creative, like, disgusting ways to kill people on tape. Do you think that they were doing that for the shock value to show to the international community to make people want more badly to go over there and fight them on their turf in a war where they could just, like, slowly, like, they would obviously lose the body count and they would all die, but to slowly, like, bleed countries like America dry and, like, pick off some of the soldiers that came over? Like, do you think that you got so mad at them? Do you think that your mindset was actually, like, in a weird way what they wanted?
Yeah, 100%. Also, I totally left this part out. I was one of the first generations to grow up on the internet, and part of, like, being an idiot teenager is, like, you know, you send each other, like, fucked up videos, like funny ones, like you know, the classics, like Two Girls, One Cup.
Big
like,
T, have you ever seen
spin.
Two Girls, One Cup?
Unfortunately, I did see it.
Unfortunately, it was unavoidable in
Yeah.
our age group. Like, you know, like, your friends would prank you.
If you
like, "Watch
hadn't
this
seen
video."
it, someone would. Yeah, there was no way around it.
Anyway, like, the ISIS videos were going around on Live Leak, like, and you saw that, and you're like, this is definite, like, evil. Like, this is evil. Like, if I want to be good in this world, like, you should probably stop this. Actually, you know who talked about this? Nick Merckx talked about how, like, he tried to be a Navy SEAL or, like, special ops at some point, and he was, like, talking about, like, yeah, like, you see these ISIS beheading videos, and, like, you're just fucking around on the internet, like, as a, you know, teenager, like, and you just stumble upon these, and it makes you seriously angry, and, like, gets you, like, riled up. And it's just like, because there was some crazy, like, you know, in the media would just pump it, like, like the guy getting set fire in a cage, like, all sorts of stuff. And if you're, like, 14, 15, like, that's, like, you know, I could only imagine what the people who, you know, really remember 9/11, who then enlisted, like, seeing some of those videos was probably, like, just the same type of propaganda to re-enlist.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's natural, I think, to see some, at least in the case of 9/11, when they were attacking our country and attacking, like, buildings and, you know, things in our hometowns to a certain extent. You're pissed off about that. Like, they killed people, they killed thousands of people, and so it's, like, disgusting. So you want revenge. You definitely want to get revenge against that and make sure that they don't do that anymore. At the same time, you got to balance that out with, like, okay, you have to protect yourself, but how much of committing to, like, a long war over there is actually playing into exactly what they want us to do? Like, I don't think that if you were to ask Bin Laden, aside from getting shot in his eye a few times by a Navy SEAL, like, this probably couldn't have played out any better for him. Like, starting a war or taking, like, a terrorist attack to the United States and then making them commit to not just one, but 2 wars for the next 18 years. And you got to remember also, like, for every person that we've killed in Iraq via, like, a mistake, if we take out, let's say we take out, like, an ISIS, like, ammunition storage facility or something like that, and we kill a guy or a lady that lives in a building close by, all of their children are going to grow up to be like, I'm going to kill every American that I can see, you know? It's like, how many more people did we create by staying over there for this long? Just feels like we kind of played into that hand a little bit. But again, I understand the mindset of being like, let's go over there and let's take out Al-Qaeda. And if the Taliban won't let us get to Al-Qaeda, let's take out the Taliban. But then you, at a certain point, you got to be like, what are we doing over here? Like, building an entire country that doesn't want us here.
But also, they're like, and you'd read about ISIS, and like ISIS wanted a battle that was like in their ideology, they wanted to have a final battle with the West, like, to culminate in like ultimate jihad and basically like end the whole world.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they were putting out those videos to sort of try to get the West to literally come and fight them, like, that, if that was the point of their propaganda, it was, you know, pissing off some random teenager sitting in the basement on his computer, like, so.
I also think if these kids over there that are joining ISIS, if they just got laid when they were like 12 or 13, it'd probably go a long way.
It's a little young.
That's 12 or 13.
You're right. That is a little young. I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of sexual repression over there. You know, like, think about yourself when you're 13 years old. Imagine if you never saw like a leg, and you're 13. Forget about a nipple.
Ankles.
Like, you've never seen a fucking foot in your entire life. You're probably like, it's not natural, right? You're gonna have. I don't know,
Are you saying that ISIS was just a bunch of incels?
Yes. Yes, I am saying that. I'm saying that they're the original incels.
The original.
I'm also anti-ISIS. I want that on the record. We're
As well.
Anti-ISIS podcast.
We officially denounce ISIS
We do.
and ISIL.
Yep. So, long story short, we're still kind of in Iraq. I guess this is a topic that I get pretty passionate about and pissed off about, because I remember very specifically, it seemed like at the time everybody in the world or in the United States was like, okay, it's a good idea to start a war in Iraq. And I was like, why? Like, I felt like I was going insane at the time. And the only like lesson that I can take out of this is just don't trust people in general. Don't trust your government, because they do not always they're not thinking big picture, and they're not thinking about you.
I have a question.
I think
Arian, go ahead.
real guys want to, because this might be getting into conspiratorial land, but like, I think that it's kind of insane that it's legal for members of Congress to have stock options in like defense contracts. Like, that's insane. Like, that is a direct conflict of interest that is borderline evil. Like, so like Lockheed Martin, like stuff like the weapon manufacturers, a congressional member can own stock in one of those companies. Mm-hmm. That's fucking insane to me.
Yeah, it is. I think that should definitely be illegal. I think that a lot of stuff should be illegal, especially in terms of like people voting to go to war when they have no personal stake. That's another thing that pisses me off about about this war, is that everybody that was kind of leading the charge and banging the drum, this is how you could tell that they were full of shit, had never served a day in the military. Because like, you can talk to people that have served, and they, especially if they've been in live combat, they will tell you, like, this is not, you shouldn't just decide to go to war someplace. It's a little more serious than that. You have to have, a clear objective, and you have to be prepared to deal with some losses. But everybody that was trying to go to war hadn't served in the military before. It was all theoretical. And when you're using war theoretically, you can be like, yeah, we're going to win this war, without getting into the details of, well, what does that really mean? Like, how many people are going to die because you just felt like you wanted to, accomplish an objective.
As a Quaker, do you get out of the draft because you are against war as a religion?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I do get out of the draft if it comes to that. because it's a conscientious objector thing where, again, I don't know if my parents had me grow up in the Quaker Church because they
Wanted you not be in the draft.
yeah, they wanted me to not be in the draft, but whatever it is, it seemed to have worked.
How would someone, obviously you were actually raised as a Quaker, but how would somebody who wanted to just say they were a Quaker, like how would they prove that?
I think you might be able to just like say it.
Yeah, like I don't know what the verification process
There's no way to know, like, do you really believe this, or are you just saying it? One of the funniest ways to get out of war ever, Ted Nugent. You know Ted Nugent?
I know the name. I don't know much about him.
He plays Cat Scratch Fever. He's a guitar player. He got drafted in Vietnam, and he spent, I think, like a week shitting himself and not showering and pissing himself, so that when it came time for him to go into the recruitment thing, he just could say that he was insane. And so he didn't have to go serve. And they're like, okay, this guy's nuts.
You may actually, in order to do that, I think you actually do have to be insane. So he was probably correct.
You're probably correct, yeah.
Bruce Springsteen got hammered the night before his draft, like his medical check,
Mm-hmm.
and he just showed up super hungover. And they're like, "You're too short."
Yeah, shit, I'll take that one.
So you like Billy, when you registered, what was that, 4 years ago?
I didn't actually register for anything.
Oh, you don't?
Well, oh no,
Yeah,
no,
you
when
did.
you're
Register
18,
draft,
yeah,
yeah.
no, when you get your selective services card, I think that still only gets sent to guys.
Yeah, I don't.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever did mine.
I know people that just never filled it out. Nothing happened.
Yeah, I
to them.
didn't.
I filled it out.
Yeah, but like I have never.
I would definitely.
I don't know anything about that.
I would definitely go to war for like a worthy, like if
There's no
I don't
fucking
know.
way I'm fighting some other nigga battle.
I don't
So
know,
this
like
nigga's
maybe
there.
maybe
No.
something would show up like recently, and it would be just. I mean, everyone in 2003 probably in 2002, like after 9/11, probably thought, you know, this is a just cause. Like we should do this. Like
Mhm.
I'm not doubting. Like I could easily probably get caught in one of those if it happens again.
You could
but,
definitely be
yeah.
convinced to go to war. Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I don't know, I struggle with that sometimes with the whole conscientious objector pacifism thing. Like, if somebody's about to, like, fuck us up, if they're, like, invading, or, you know, it's like a direct threat, yeah, I'm going to want to fight too. But, like, I don't really trust anyone who's telling me, hey, your life is in imminent danger, unless I, like, see it with my own two eyes. Otherwise, it's just like, okay, I don't know why I'm being asked to clean up a mess that you made.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to. They're gonna have to.
That's a good way to put it.
Especially when they're
Come
children,
on,
like
what's that?
senators, their kids don't serve at the same level.
Mm.
Especially when it's like when it comes time for a draft, they get deferments, they get, you know, special privileges. So it's like people. It's the separation of people that are making the decision to go to war with the people that are actually doing the fighting, which makes things like the Iraq War happen. And what's mind-boggling to me is I think still like 35% of Americans think that it was a good war or a just war to get into. And I guess you could make the argument, like, depending on what your definition of just is, but like to say that it was a good idea and that you would do it again, that's actually insane. If you're like, yeah, let's run this back.
I mean, should we get into oil?
Yeah,
Let's get into some oil.
let's do it. Time out real quick. I gotta get going in a little bit. If you guys want to finish it up without me, that'd be fine. But I've got a ride that I have to catch.
I know worries.
That's leaving shortly.
Oh, why don't we go through the petrodollar
Okay,
sort of fiasco?
let's get into oil.
Should we go full out, like talk about the conspiracy about maintaining the dollar's strength?
Go
like
for
the
it.
Federal Reserve.
Hit me, Billy.
Well, there is a conspiracy. Now, I'm not advocating this conspiracy or talking, but there's this idea that, because of basically in 1974, we got Saudi Arabia to agree to price their oil exclusively in the U.S. dollar in return for military equipment and protection. Alternatively, you have this not corporation, but sorry, wait, I lost my train of thought. You have this organization of multiple foreign entities called OPEC, and OPEC includes Russia, Iran. Basically, a lot of the sort of axis of evil, you may say, that Bush referred to a couple times. It was founded in September 1960 in Baghdad, Iraq. Its actually headquarters is in Vienna, Austria. So what basically people say is that they think that Dick Cheney and his Halliburton connections wanted to ensure that the U.S. dollar still maintained its strength through the Federal Reserve by invading Iraq and ensuring that all Iraqi oil is then under control of the United States, because Iraq at the time was supposed to have the 5th largest oil reserve and would be a major player in global petroleum distribution, and that whoever controlled sort of the pricing of that oil would be a larger player when it came to the geopolitical landscape.
Weren't they like burning their oil fields when we first started going over there? They're like burning their oil fields
in like Jarhead.
Yep.
And so that's interesting dynamic, right? It's just like when you, like why I asked like what you felt like during those times is because I felt the exact opposite, and for this reason. So like my people were saying like America just wants to go to war for oil. Like that's my people was all saying that growing up. So it's like I had a very different like vantage point. The default in my circles is skepticism, but from the U.S. government. So it's just interesting to hear the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I ended up not serving in the military. I don't want to act like stolen like we should have had Chaps on here to like really talk about it, but like I totally sound like a hardo. But yeah, when I was 14, 15, I like really wanted to join the military at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Just a random dude with a buzz cut.
You can still do that. You can still join.
Yeah, you got time.
Well, I wanted to like pay for college and stuff too. There was a lot of benefits, but anyway, in Iraq's November 2000, they redenominated their oil from U.S. dollars to euros, and the possibility of a more widespread adoption of the euro as an oil pricing standard would really put a risk on like the U.S.'s dollar, the strength of the U.S. dollar in the geopolitical landscape. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the blood for oil thing, I think like anytime you're talking about what we're doing in the Middle East, we would not be there if it wasn't for oil. We basically got hired to be like the rent-a-cops for Saudi Arabia back in, what was it, like mid 1940s, something like that. And so we're like, yeah, we'll protect your shit if you send us some of that good black stuff. And we've kind of been over there ever since.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anybody have anything else they want to add to Iraq?
A little more of a fun conspiracy theory in Afghanistan is that people think that U.S. Marines shot a giant blue humanoid in the cave systems, and it was all covered up. It's actually like a fun one that's kind of a little more lighthearted. Not lighthearted because it didn't actually happen, but like there's this idea that a biblical giant killed a bunch of U.S. Marines in a Kandahar cave system, which is a kind of a fun one, a little more like a cryptid type thing, but it actually...
send that in the group chat. I want to send like a link or something. I want to see that.
Giants of Kandahar. It's also connected to a lot of Hotep type mythology.
What do you know about Hotep, Billy?
I was going to say, when you say Hotep, what do you mean?
No, I don't know. I was like, I was on my Instagram Explore page late one night, and I found this. And they're saying...
Boy, that's how it usually starts,
Yeah. But it was... where is it? Yeah, basically, they thought it was like the same type of giant that killed David in David versus
Klay Thompson
Goliath.
in this picture.
But yeah. The giant of Kandahar. Basically, there is this idea that like no one really knows what happened in a lot of places out there, and this is kind of a fun one. But something that was also interesting in Iraq is that a lot of U.S. soldiers found these basically torture houses that would only lock from the inside. But when they'd go in, all they found was dead bodies. They'd break into these places. It's actually some of the like scariest. Like they did find some really bad shit in Iraq. May have not been nuclear weapons, but like Saddam and his sons were, you know, not the best guys.
Oh no, they're pieces of shit.
Yeah.
I don't want like anything that I've said earlier to be like I'm Team Saddam. I'm lumping him in with ISIS. I'm also anti-Saddam Hussein and Uday and Qusay. Was that the
Dude, like these guys,
shithead sons?
these guys would literally just point out women on the street and have their like security teams just kidnap them and bring them into their like. It was really messed up, but crazy stuff. Like they would have like bed springs, like metal bed springs hooked up to car batteries, like all that bad stuff. Actually, there might have also been a torture chamber in the Mission of Iraq in New York City on 79th Street on the Upper East Side. They might have had a so back when he rose to power in 1979, Saddam's henchmen, known as the Mukhabarat agents, frequently imprisoned local New York Iraqis who had immigrated and tortured them to get their relatives to return back to Iraq and stop talking negatively about the regime. This was in New York City.
I believe that.
In the basement.
I actually do believe that.
Yeah. And then they would kill them and ship them back to Baghdad in custom-exempt packages.
You know, one thing I've always wondered about Saddam Hussein, when do you decide that you're going to be a beret guy? Like, seriously.
I mean, it's a big decision.
It is.
You can't go back once you put on the beret. That's admitting defeat if you decide, like, it's not working out. You have to be really confident that you're going to – that's a look that you're going to stick with for a long time.
Serious French move.
It feels like a similar decision as like someone who's going to be like a mustache guy or like a goatee guy.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the mustache plays well with the beret in tandem as well. You have to be. It's like a dictator move, honestly. Like if you're gonna rock a beret, I see a lot of people like if you're in the military, rocking a beret is one thing, but if you're in charge of an entire country and not actively in the military, that seems to me like only a dictator could pull that off. Or Monica Lewinsky, again, she was a big beret girl.
It's like Carmelo Anthony has the thin mustache, and he started with the beret, and that it's gone into a complete different direction in the hat world.
Yeah,
basketball fashion in general it's really odd.
Is this basketball? I mean, I don't want to throw dirt on my guy's name, but my quarterback is also very much out here in the fashion world.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I guess the fashion world in general is just I don't understand it. Like it's like do the most ridiculous shit possible, and you be like it's edgy. Like I just don't get it. Like I freely admit I don't understand fashion.
My biggest hang up is it's like they do the runway shows where they're wearing like the most preposterous things ever, but you never see that like on the streets or on like there's nowhere to purchase it.
Right. It's just like weird like cosplay shit. Like, I'm with you, bro. I don't know.
It's like a live action like art installation.
Actually, you know who? Are we still recording?
Yeah, but
John Cena was extremely instrumental in making me want to join the military.
Oh, I bet.
There it is.
John Cena.
I'm sure of it.
Like literally playing WWE 2K. Like what was it? It was SmackDown versus Raw 2009, and you could fight in front of the troops. And you could, I mean,
didn't they introduce like a terrorist character during the mid 2000s?
Oh, that's one of Vince. That's like his staple move is whoever we're in conflict with at the time. Like you're going to be a bad guy.
I mean, I didn't end up. I know I'm probably sounding like such a try hard wannabe. Like people actually are in the military probably like fuck this guy, but like I was eating it up. Like
I think a lot of troops have your same mentality, Billy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hustle, loyalty, respect, right?
Hustle, loyalty, respect.
You're right.
I mean, most people, not most, there's a large portion of society who found out about bin Laden's dying from John Cena.
Yeah, that we played that the other day on the show. That was insane.
Yeah.
That seemed like a work too.
I'm good.
That's the most convincing conspiracy theory, or the most convincing piece of evidence to point to the conspiracy that either Osama bin Laden was never killed, or that we had his body frozen and we chose a specific time to announce it. Yeah, it just so happens when John Cena is walking out onto the stage at WrestleMania. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well,
Like that is honestly Vince McMahon's wet dream.
like, how are we gonna instill literally probably someone from the Pentagon called the WWE offices and was like, this is gonna be the best time to how are we gonna convey to the people who are maybe the most patriotic that we killed Osama bin Laden, maybe gain a little cred for Obama's work in the Middle East.
Yeah, we're gonna have it's gonna be either John Cena or JJ Watt. Which one are we gonna pick here?
Wasn't
The Rock.
It wasn't Linda McMahon Secretary of Education or something way too high up.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, yeah.
Secretary of Commerce or something.
She ran for governor of Connecticut, and I remember seeing one of her ads, and she was like, "I've been running a large corporation for the last 20 years," and literally they showed a picture of Triple H pedigreeing someone. It's they show the candidates at their work site or job talking to little kids. No, boom, Triple H pedigree.
She's like, I'm tough on crime, and it's her and the Dudley boys, both dressed as cops.
Arch. I watched a lot of WWE. There was that was my area of WWE was John Cena, Jeff Hardy.
Well, the most classic example was when there was a hostage situation, and then they had the Iron Sheik character who would just go out there and wave an Iranian flag, and then Hulk Hogan would walk down carrying American flags, you son of a bitch.
Oh yeah,
how dare you?
Hulk Hogan.
You again?
Yeah.
I am a real American. I used to literally listen to that.
The right of every man.
I would unironically listen to that song in the weight room.
What song is that?
It's Hulk Hogan's walkout music.
Oh.
Yeah, I can just imagine Billy doing bench press, a little incline.
Dude, just
listen to that. I am a real American. Let me read this ad, and then you guys can wrap up however you want. But I'm actually going to miss this if I don't get out of here. Before we get to the war in Iraq, I want to talk to you guys about TickPick. TickPick is the original no-fee ticket site. It guarantees the best prices on sports and concert tickets. Why pay more on other ticket sites? You can get those same seats on TickPick for better prices. Some ridiculous conspiracy theories that you might know, like who shot JFK, what's up with Bigfoot. But the biggest conspiracy of all is the ridiculous service fees that all other major ticket sites don't need to charge, but they do it anyway to line their pockets, to pass extra costs on to the consumer. It's true. They don't have to do it, but not TickPick. Whether our competitors are baking them into the price or hitting you with them at the checkout, the fees are very real, but not on TickPick. It's the original no-fee ticket site that needs to be your go-to for tickets to live events. Download the TickPick app. They guarantee the best prices on live event tickets. Download their app today. Get the easiest way to save money on sports and concert tickets. And we're going to give you $10. $10 off your first order. TickPick.com/macro. Go to TickPick.com/macro today. Get $10 off your first order of live event tickets, or you can download the TickPick app. Use promo code DOSE. Promo code DOSE. You get $10 off. I'm going to be going to some concerts in the next couple weeks. Guess what? I'm getting $10 off my ticket. Easiest way to save money. Go to TickPick.com/macro or download their app and use promo code DOSE.
I mean, the only thing I thought of, and I wish I brought it up earlier because I think it made more sense before we got into the Iraq war, but with since we have Arian here and the NFL is making fools of themselves constantly, and I saw you quote tweet someone, tell them to stick the fuck off YouTube. What would be going on in your locker room right now, in your eyes, if you were still playing?
Regarding what? In regards to
the conversations around the vaccines and shit. What would you be telling guys?
Oh my God, I would be telling them to get vaccinated and get the fuck off YouTube. But it's the issue, right? Is So like there's two reasons as to why I see people not getting vaccinated. There's the general like either center to right reasoning as far as like the COVID is not as a big deal as some people don't think COVID is real, like that kind of conspiratorial land. And then the other side is like the more it's hard to reach these people, but it's like black folks in general mistrust the government, and for very good solid reasons, right? There's definitely like they always cite the Tuskegee experiments. It goes back in like the 30s where they experimented on black folks and syphilis. Like, it literally was an experimentation, or they told people they were giving them the cure for syphilis, and it was just like placebo. So shit like that has resonated. Like my grandfather passed recently in last year, and he never my grandmother was in she died in 2010, but even when she was like on her last days, he was like, yo, the doctors are trying to kill us. Like he just had a strong, it's just, and he's from that era, right? He's from that. And so the general consensus in the black community, I don't say general consensus, but a lot of us feel like doctors don't have our best interests. I mean, there's still discrimination and disparities in how they deal with black folk, with medicine, to this day, right? And so when you're dealing with a lot of those things, it's hard to disassociate something that is like ravaging the earth like COVID is, or spreading across the earth like COVID is, and then the general discrimination that black folks have felt in this country for years. And so I understand where Cats is coming from, but I think you don't care enough about it to research vaccines. Like generally the anti-vax crowd, it stems from like one dude, Andrew Wakefield, that doctor. Like that's long ass. We should actually get into that one of these days, have an episode about vaccines. But when you research why people are against vaccines, it falls flat on its face. And when you research mRNA, it's like really beautiful science that's being created.
Right.
Like we just don't have the care enough. And so like if people deal with real issues about vaccines, I'll listen to them. But if they don't, if they just murmur talking points, I'm just like, yo, shut the fuck up.
Do you like how many guys do you anticipate us about to see like get cut?
I don't think they'll cut anybody because of that. But I think if you on the bubble, like they won't want to deal with it.
So
and
there was.
They might.
Oh, I didn't mean. I thought you were done. But there was a report of some team who called somebody about a tryout, and they asked if he was vaccinated. He said no, and they just hung up. And they were like, "We're not."
That's what I mean. Like, I don't think like DeAndre Hopkins is about to get like cut by the Cardinals. But if you're like the 40th man on the roster and 50 or 55 and plays your position, and he's vaccinated, you're not. Like, I think you're out of there.
Yeah, I do. Like, I don't think they won't cut you because you're not, but like given the circumstances, they just don't want to deal with the headache. They don't want to deal with the possibility, which is their prerogative, you know. And I'm not against it. I'm like it's not that hard, bro. If you actually, and the thing is like the majority, I would say a lot of the cats in the league, you can go talk to like real medical professionals, like not the niggas you see on YouTube that are risking their careers for telling the truth, not them cats, right? But like real medical professionals. And you can go talk to the ones that you feel are against it, right? You can go get a real solid opinion, and get the science explained to you. But like, you just don't care enough. Who was the cat that his shit popped up on my timeline? That's why I responded. But this nigga was like the Bill Gates shit, where like Bill Gates is like, yeah, my nigga, like there's 7 billion people on the planet, and Bill Gates wants to assassinate the backup corner for Tampa. Like, shut the fuck up, bro. Like, get the fuck out of here, dog. You're insane.
That was the long con all this time.
Yeah. Trying to get, fucking Tom Brady practice. He didn't like the way. Shut up, nigga.
I saw Mike McCarthy was talking about it, and he was like, I was surprised this didn't get more play, because he was very much like, oh yeah, I was super against it. And then I literally talked to one doctor and was like, oh shit, and then I got it. It's like, yeah, that's really all it takes. Like, if you don't have rocks in your head and you talk to, like, I don't need to do the research. Like, this is what these people dedicate their entire lives to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I haven't made a point in my life to challenge experts on shit.
Yeah, and that's the bothersome part, I think, dog. Where they'll be like, "No, man," like they'll cite some shitty ass source or something, and it's like, dog, it takes more than that. Like, there's so much involved in making vaccines, and like the talking points they have are just annoying, fam. Like, that's why I don't even waste my time unless it's somebody I care about. If I care about you,
Right.
I'll try to explain it to you. But if not, I'm like, bro, shut up.
I didn't anticipate Michael Irvin being like the voice of reason.
What did he say? I missed it.
He was just like he's just boiled it down to pure football brain. He's like, if you're anti getting this vaccine, you don't care about winning, and like he's not wrong. He's just not wrong at all. And then he said something else.
Man.
Let me pull it up because he was on a roll. He had like 3 days in a row.
That's
He said something like, if you bring up YouTube to me, I'm not trying to hear that shit. Like, keep it moving.
that is hilarious, man. You don't care about winning.
That's what I mean. He was like, listen, you can't be in the weight room as often as other teams who are fully vaccinated. Like, you simply are not trying hard enough to win a championship if you are not vaccinated. And it's like, I bet some people were like, fuck, he's right. I need to go get the shot today.
And I think that's the worst part. It's not the describing of that. It's that, he might have convinced somebody with this shit. And that's
Without question. If Fauci day one was just like, listen, it's the fourth quarter. If we don't get these shots, we are going to lose. I think you would have seen a flood of people at the vaccine sites.
That shit's hilarious, man. Well, shit, man. Does anybody have anything else about the Iraq War or vaccines?
I think we definitely there's a couple of things that happened in the Iraq War that I thought that I'd love to. We'll probably have Chaps on next time when we do in the beginning. But a bunch of questions about Blackwater, mercenaries, and a couple myths that I'd love to hear from him. That might have happened.
Let's revisit it when we run it. We run it back next episode.
Perfect.
Do our cleanups.
You want to do
Underwear
underwear
yeah,
color?
have to.
Oh shit. Okay. I think you went with gray today, dog.
Nah, I went a little adventurous.
Shit.
It's a red and blue stripe. You got that?
Ah. Okay. Shit, man. I've definitely lost my touch. So
You got hot there for a
3
second.
straight?
I think I was at 3 straight. I had 2 or 3. Yeah.
You'll find it.
I'll find my zone again.
All right.
Well, shit. Our usual closer is out. He ditched us, so fuck him. But we appreciate everybody. And what does he always say? He always says some silly shit.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Tell us we're handsome.
Oh, yeah.
Rate us 5 stars. Download, rate, subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Macrodosing Pod.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch.
Yeah, merch in the store now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get us on the Instagram to 10K by August 1st, and it is currently July 26th as we speak, and I think the Instagram has like 7,700 followers. So if we could get to 10K by August 1st, I will call each and every one of the 10,000 followers handsome personally, and the 10,000 follower will get eggs sent to them from me.
That takes so much longer than you're anticipating.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, man.
Yeah, definitely. Please follow us on socials. Growing socials
Yeah.
will be a very good indicator that people like listening to this podcast
Yes.
and the continuation of this podcast. So it would be much appreciated.
The more Instagram
will
followers
say,
and Twitter followers we have, the more
every-
McDonald's eggs I can
Oops, sorry.
buy. I was just going to say, the more Instagram followers we have, the more McDonald's burgers with eggs I can buy for
That's
them.
true.
True.
That's true. And I will say, when I see people out, like, people are very quick to bring up this show and how much they like it. That's just regular people out on the streets. So I know you're listening. So if you're fucking listening, go follow us.
For the
I
love
got
of
stopped
God.
at Whole Foods the other day, and some dude was pulling up, and he was like, "I'm listening to Macrodosing right now." It's fucking weird, bro. Nah, but we appreciate the love and support, man. And yeah, see y'all next week.